All eyes in society were on her Duchess Gernoa Lantera, hair as golden as honey eyes, like rose quartz, innate grace. There is no more perfect and noble lady in this empire than she, and therefore they believe that only she is worthy of dancing with His Highness at the ball at the end of the year. It's all a lie. After all, her real name is Larissa. Duke Lanter's estate today was a wonderful day. As everyone might have already figured out, her name is Larissa, and she's been playing the role of the deceased Duchess Gernoa Lanter for a year now. As ironic as it may sound, even the dead Duchess's hair was much more beautiful than the main character's hair. It all started with the suicide of the real Duchess of Gernoa. As the clouds were gathering over the Lanter family, the Duke met her by chance, and as soon as he saw her, the Duke immediately bought her, saying, "This is fate," and with a gift sent to him by God to resurrect his daughter. From that moment on, her name was Gernoa. She had no choice after all, he was the Duke. Larissa couldn't pass up the chance to give her family a normal life. Her family thinks she has taken a job with local aristocrats and is living a life of luxury. On one hand, this may seem true, but on the other hand, it is not. We take the room, the Duke burst in. He called her a stupid creature and asked her if she thought at all before drinking the leaf tea. She's an idiot for still not remembering that Genoa was allergic to her. He's wrong, the Duchess wasn't allergic to black tea. Those bastards knew nothing about her. They only cared about their daughter's appearance. Larissa said that this was not true, and his daughter was not allergic to leaf tea. Only his wife had it. There's no point in telling him this, apparently certain that this jerk won't remember anything anyway. She thinks she can drink leaf tea even at the princess's tea party. The Duke asked again, and the girl told him that it would be in 3 days. So she pushed his hand away and said that she needed to create a more perfect image. The man noted that in that case, he would say that her allergy had gone away, and added that she needed to hurry. She needs to order the princess's favorite oriental tea. This time, she needs to get as close to the princess as possible and suddenly transition to His Highness. Larissa said that she would do what her master wanted. The gentleman called her by his daughter's name and said that she was so cute. He was sure that she would definitely become empress. 3 days later, the princess's tea party. It's very strange that the princess won't be attending the tea party. The lady said that Grand Duke Hadilun of Quillan had arrived at the palace. The princess fell in love with him at first sight and had been trying to meet him all day. The lady even heard that the tea party was simply an excuse for her to secretly meet His Highness the Duke. This is too much. She was so looking forward to meeting the princess, and here she is. Everything was lost. So many expensive gifts had been brought, and she couldn't even see it. The Duke didn't give her any advice on how to meet the princess, so she didn't quite know what to do, and wanted to leave everything as it was. The maid informed the Duchess that she had learned that the princess had gone into the garden to look for the Grand Duke. It's lucky there's a labyrinth here. With its help, she can lie about being lost. It's best to hold on to the wall to avoid getting truly lost. But frankly, there's no time to waste, so we need to hurry. But when Lily ran away, she accidentally fell. She had no idea what it was and seemed to trip over something. When she stood up, she realized it was a man's cape. It looked quite expensive, perhaps lost by an aristocrat. She realized there was even a whole set here. A coat, a vest, and even pants. And then she saw the underwear. She had no idea what kind of perversion had happened here. Suddenly, a rabbit crawled out from under the garment. This surprised the Duchess. This rabbit is so cute, and she thought that he was from the palace. She did not understand at all what he was doing here, and she thought that he was cold. It was strange there was no one else around. She couldn't believe he was really all alone here. Larissa heard that once upon a time, rich people, to satisfy their own perverted desires, let animals roam freely in the garden. And they were simply watched until they were finished, but after some time, they were forgotten and disposed of. Without a sound, the rabbit was injured, just as she thought it had simply been abandoned there. He's such a poor thing, they bullied him too. And what this is the only thing she brought herself to meet the princess, and she immediately screwed up. If the Duke finds out, she will be in trouble. She is even afraid to imagine it. If she continues to fail the tasks that the Duke gives her, he will simply get rid of her, so she does not understand at all what to do. Besides, it was completely unclear what to do with this little rabbit, so she invited him to come with her. Even if one rabbit disappears, no one will notice because they don't even know if it's still alive. They didn't care about the truth, just as it was the truth about her, as well as about the clothes that were safely forgotten. Where is the Grand Duke? It's completely unclear. Sen called for him, and he begged his master to answer. Grand Duke Hadalun. Hadalun is also Strelit's representative of all the countries of the continent, ruler of the great country, which prevents demons from penetrating their lands. He is also a handsome man, a natural-born genius, who does not reveal details about his personal life, but his person always becomes the main subject of conversation and rumors throughout the kingdom. In a word, he's the perfect man. However, he too has his skeletons in the closet. Suddenly, Sen found the Grand Duke's clothes and couldn't believe it. He really did become a rabbit. That's right. That's the closely guarded secret in the Streltsy family. An ancient magic passed down from generation to generation. Family members would transform into animals when it was time to find the love of their life, and only after finding one would they return to their original form. It was possible to predict which animal would transform through dreams. Hadalun got a rabbit. The boy did not understand at all why he was a rabbit. He was led to hope for a wolf and a lying deer. And then he ran away screaming, and then that he did not want the long-eared one. In order to avoid the miserable fate of being turned into a rabbit, he was intensely involved in the affairs of the country. However, he too couldn't escape his fate. To make matters worse, he was kidnapped. When he noticed he wasn't alone, you tried to run away, but you injured your leg. Plus, the girl's expression was so sad that he decided to stay. Judging by her clothes, he realized that she was most likely the daughter of one of the aristocrats and had come to the princess's tea party. However, he doesn't understand why she's so sad. The girl brought the rabbit into her room and bandaged its paw. Although it might be a little uncomfortable, his leg will heal faster this way. She bandaged it well. Larissa remarked that it was so funny, happy day when she saw him. Otherwise, she immediately realized how unhappy they both were. However, now having bought a very expensive ointment, she finally got the opportunity to cure it. And because of this, she feels so good. The rabbit thought she was a bit odd. You can't tell Sveta that she has any problems with her hair. So I don't quite understand why she wears that huge wig. It must be hard to replicate that color. The maid was shocked when she saw the rabbit. The Duke burst into the room and asked her if it was true that she was unable to meet with the princess today. He gave her everything different clothes gifts, and she couldn't even meet her. It's simply disgusting. She's worse than the real Gernoa on every front. Yet he still calls her by his daughter's name. Ellie is the only one who knows her secret. But even she always leaves the room at moments like this. If she tells the truth, he'll be furious, and if she lies, he'll be even more furious when he finds out. Larissa already realized that the best way would be to simply remain silent. He was going to hit her, but suddenly the rabbit pushed the man away with its paw. The Duke almost fell over from this. Yulia was shocked, and then started asking the long-eared one if he was okay. The man was in complete shock, and began asking Gernoa what kind of disgusting creature it was, and ordered her to throw it out immediately and feed it to the dogs. But the girl said she wouldn't do that, since she'd received it from the princess. The Duke was in complete shock. Then, Lion asked about Princess Kalota. The girl confirmed this, and noted that the princess had been unable to attend the tea ceremony in person, so she had called each guest one by one into the garden. There they exchanged gifts, and she received this rabbit. The Duke thought about it. She said that it was brought from distant lands, and there are no more like it on this continent. The Duke thought for a moment, and noticed that if you looked closely, he really did look unusual. The rabbit was completely shocked by what she had put together, and dragged the royal family into this whole story to save the rabbit's life. It's just ridiculous. This girl is really such a good comma anyway. She is definitely not an ordinary aristocrat. The gentleman remarked that she was a good girl, and he knew she was a smart girl. This time at the ball, she absolutely had to dance. The first dance with the prince, Larissa agreed. She has already gotten used to and adapted to lying, so that others do not notice, however, every time she worries that her legs are shaking. But she doesn't regret that she collected, and was able to save him, and is even proud of herself. The rabbit even felt embarrassed by how tightly she hugged him, because they had only met for the first time today. To her, he's just a rabbit, so it's perfectly normal for her. But to him, it's all completely different. He's never touched a woman before, except for dancing at a ball, so today is a first for him. It smelled so nice and was so soft. Larissa said goodnight to the little eared one and kissed him on the forehead. The guy was completely hooked on this. The lady said that tomorrow she would definitely come up with a name for him, something that would make all the big-eared ones envious. Unlike her real name, which she was forbidden to pronounce, his name will shine in the darkness like a star in the bottomless sky. Besides, before the Duke learns the truth, she needs to meet the princess. The ball time is approaching, so we need to hurry. The rabbit started running away. The door to the veranda was closed, so he decided to try through the window. But it was too high. For the master in his normal body, this is a piece of cake. However, he is in the body of a rabbit. What he realized when he hit that man was that he had a bit of magic in this matter. In addition, all his previous wounds and scars were transferred to this body. It won't work. Now it's better to stay close to her and just wait for convenient opportunities. Larissa considered naming the rabbit Obama or Trump. These are names of very famous people from ancient times, so she liked them. She figured the rabbit wouldn't like those names, so she decided to look for something else. She believed he knew the name of a man in the East, Hong Gil-dong. He is the Korean Robin Hood. The maid remarked that her mistress could come up with a name for him herself. Larissa decided she could call him Ball. It's just a nightmare. The names she chooses rabbit really hoped she would choose something normal. It turns out, it's not that easy to choose exactly one. She's already named all the best ones. She's completely talentless. Talik understood that this would never end, and in any case, it would not last long, so he would accept any name. The maid informed the mistress that classes would soon begin. The mistress announced that she had decided that his name would be Poppy, and then she asked the rabbit what his name was, because she thought it was wonderful. She thought the rabbit liked it. The maid didn't even know what to say to her. The rabbit was so shocked that he didn't understand what was happening around him. Larissa was upset and didn't understand why she froze so. The lady thought that he had pain somewhere, but the maid said that perhaps he was hungry. For animals, the most important thing is food, so she decided to give it to him, but the rabbit threw it away. He scattered food around the room. The lady was delighted that the rabbit was eating the salad that had been brought for her. It was so cute. He was raised in a palace, so it's understandable why he's such a picky eater. The maid wasn't sure if they were allowed to keep such a spoiled rabbit. She was already in constant trouble, and the Gerts were always angry, and she thought the rabbit would only add to her troubles. The lady laughed and said it was all right. She told him it was the princess's rabbit. The Duke even agreed with her that he was a cutie. Ellie is very attentive. After she brought the rabbit from the garden, she did not explain anything to her, but she understood everything herself. Ellie is the only one in this house who knows everything about her. The maid knows she's not a real duchess, but even she doesn't know her true origins. Ellie's family has been working for the Lanter family for generations. The Duke said she was completely at her disposal, but he said he would kill her if she escaped. And Ellie knows this. That's why she's worried and concerned about her. She can't help her escape because then she'll be killed. Moreover, Larissa also cannot help her because she does not have the strength to save even herself. They depend on each other. Even though it's all a lie, it could turn this lodge into reality once the Duke finds out. The lady also decided to ask the maid how her family was doing and believed that they were already feeling better. Ellie said everything was fine. Larissa still believes a doctor's visit is never a bad idea. She received them along with the dress. She doesn't need them, so she can safely take them and sell them. The maid was very grateful to the lady for this. The lady told her that she knew that because she was playing the role of a duchess, her hands were tied, so she needed her help. At the last inaugural party, she heard that the princess was interested in the Grand Duke, so she asked the maid if she thought she could use it somehow. The rabbit knew she was no ordinary aristocrat. The maid promised to find out more about the Grand Duke. The Duke just sat and thought that it would be easy for me, because the princess had already known everything about him for a long time, and he himself is here. But he doesn't quite understand why she so wants to be close to Princess Carlota. Sometime later, the lady was telling the rabbit, as was clear, that her main target was the crown prince. In order to become empress, she must stand closer to him, and according to the Duke, it might look vulgar if she just appeared in front of him, and such a noble girl as she couldn't appear vulgar. Therefore, she must first approach his sister, and then she could introduce them. She thought the rabbit was laughing too. And it was true. The rabbit was laughing even more, because she was talking to the rabbit. The Duke lingered longer than he'd planned. He kept a close eye on her and managed to figure something out. This girl is lonely, and all she does is study to become more like an aristocrat. Ellie, as promised, often went out to get information about him. Even though she pretends that everything is fine, she doesn't look happy at all. He believed that it was because she was living someone else's life, and he was very interested in who she really was and what her name was. The girl was very happy because he tried to console her. The Duke wanted to tell her that he was doing something like that. She said he was so kind, even though she said she would pick a cool name for him. But she still hasn't come up with anything. Great, according to Ellie, he's a boy. Rabbit doesn't understand how she knows that. Since he is the best rabbit on this planet, his name will be the same as the best man on the whole earth, the Grand Duke of Hadalun. She just wants to shorten it a bit, so she asked him what his name is. Lung. It's just wonderful. He likes everything about it. Louis. That was his childhood name, a name he only heard from his late mother and sister. His mother told him that a rabbit is a very good thing. Rabbits are very fast and nimble animals. The girl kept saying her little brother would be a rabbit, and she really wanted to see it. Louis told her not to even hope. After that accident, no one called him that anymore. And now, after so many years, he hears that name again. He liked it. Ellie ran up to the lady, completely confused about what was happening. The Grand Duke has just appeared in front of the opera house, which means the princess will be there too. The rabbit had no idea what this meant, because he was here now, and didn't understand what kind of nonsense this was, because he couldn't possibly be in two places at once. Palace Mr. Hadalin put her alone and went to the theater. It felt like her heart was shattered. This is Princess Charlotte. She decided she wouldn't give up so easily and would put everything she had on the line. The Grand Duke will definitely belong to her, because love knows no age. The prince laughed, but Charlotte told him not to laugh, because she was completely serious now. The guy pointed out that he was raising that she loved him, but she shouldn't go crazy. This guy is Crown Prince Caden. She's his little sister. And he has a brother, does not want her to connect her life with some old man. Charlotte said that he's not that old anymore, and besides, he's very cute. And also, he has dark hair. And not in turn the most beautiful, but the age difference. And this opera. The girl was extremely disappointed because she didn't know, and also decided to go to the opera right now. If not, she won't study anymore and won't eat or sleep at all. Her brother said she's learned how to be stubborn perfectly. So he has one condition. They'll go together. Well, in principle, the girl wasn't against it. The lady asked if it was true that the Grand Duke was also here. The lady had also come from afar to see him, but she didn't know if he had always been a private person. His carriage should be outside, but his is so beautiful, that means he really is here. All the high society has gathered here, and he really is that popular. Even though he is from the House of Strelitz, everyone calls him by his first name, Hedalun. It's generally impolite to call members of the royal family by their first names. However, a book based entirely on his exploits was recently published and became a huge hit. However, apart from the information in that book, practically nothing is known about him. Ellie had always been good at gathering information, but even she couldn't find out about his hobbies, not to mention other more important things. Suddenly, she remembered about the rabbit and opened the box, and then asked me if it was cramped for him in there. He was so fucked up, but she just had to show it to the princess today. Meanwhile, the rabbit ran away. Larissa noticed it was her. Their hair color was just so similar she'd confused them. And then she noticed that the rabbit was gone, and immediately jumped up and started screaming, asking where he was running off to. When the prince saw the girl, he believed that she was the daughter of Duke Lanter. I think her name was Jernoa. He remembered her because of the gorgeous color of her hair. She's certainly a beauty, but he heard she was ill, but she looks perfectly healthy. She was so busy that she didn't even notice how she ran past him, the crown prince. He turned to her. Meanwhile, the guards informed the princess that she could not proceed further without the royal family's permission. Jernoa said she wouldn't be long. Her rabbit had just run there. Unfortunately, they can't let her through. Her search would disrupt the performance. She said that's why she wants to find him before the performance begins, so he doesn't disturb the royal family. The principal pointed out that she was right and asked them if they had noticed anything before stopping her. He thought they were talking about some ferocious animal. They immediately apologized and said they would immediately check the chambers for the animal. The lady was very surprised when she saw Mr. Kaiden behind her. She was shocked to hear that this man was the crown prince. His fiery red hair is the hallmark of the royal family. He's simply charming. It was definitely him, and she didn't understand at all how it happened that she met him before the princess. In pursuit of the window, She was already supposed to play the role of the Duchess. She was supposed to show what a noble lady she was, but she was running around the corridors. The principal noted that he had heard a lot about her, and it was nice to finally meet her. This time, he'll take care of everything, but he demands that it never happen again. The servants immediately understood their master. The prince allowed his mistress to accompany him. Genoa thanked His Imperial Highness profusely. His little sister Charlotte was there asking her brother if the Grand Duke had finally arrived. She also asked who this rabbit was. The Crown Prince shouted, asking what she was doing, and told her to get down immediately. Caden kept screaming at her to get down alive and let the rabbit go because it belonged to Miss Genoa Lantera. Charlotte said that was not the case, and she would watch after he answered her question, and the rabbit would not disappear. Kaiden kept telling her to lick it, and really fast. The rabbit hoped to meet someone here who knew him and would take him away from this madhouse, but he simply jumped from the madhouse to a mental hospital. Charlotte continued to say that she would not do anything about it and would not go down until he answered the question of who came with him. Kren started saying that if she didn't watch him right now, she'd be under house arrest. Larissa couldn't understand how anyone could be so stubborn, so she decided it would be better if she figured things out herself. Charlotte asked her brother who he was, since only her father had the right to give her orders. The girl introduced herself and said that she had been honored to meet Her Highness. The rabbit she is holding now belongs to her. He is very nimble and ill-mannered, and she is so happy that such a beautiful and sweet princess like her caught him. But Charlotte said it wasn't worth it, because she'd met him here by chance. It was dangerous, so she should grab her hand because the mistress would help the princess down. Charlotte said she climbed up there to save the rabbit because it was trying to jump. Larissa was very grateful to her. The girl turned to Miss and asked if she could just call her by her first name in front of people. The girl said she could do whatever she wanted. Kaiden couldn't believe how quickly she had found common ground with his sister. Charlotte turned to her brother and said that she would be watching the show with Genoa, so he should find another place for himself. Although the 3-hour performance had ended, the Grand Duke still had not appeared. It's understandable since this rumor was started by Lord Hadelun's Knight Sen. He did it specifically to notify the Duke, but nothing came of it. He wasted so much time and all in vain. The matter becomes more serious, because it is completely unclear where he went. Did he really lose the ability to think like a human when he turned into a rabbit? But in that case, he would have simply run around the lawn and eaten grass. However, he was not in the garden, although he dug up everything there. It's even funny for him to imagine it. The ladies said there was a very beautiful rabbit there. She heard that she met the Crown Prince today, and not only him, but also the princess. She understands that the opera today was very special for her. The Duchess remarked that it was a very interesting performance, and now it's time for her to go. The ladies said that when the mistress has time, they ask her to come and visit them. A beautiful blonde that must be Mrs. Lantera. She's finally gone after a protracted illness. And I noticed she had a pet. Usually people keep dogs or cats, but she had a rabbit, and it was strange. Such dark fur, he'd imagined the Duke's rabbit, just like that. However, no matter how yellow he became, he'd never allow himself to be held so tightly to his chest. Unless, of course, he has lost the ability to think like a human. Suddenly, he realized it was the Grand Duke of Hadelun. He tried to stop the carriage, but to no avail. The Duke greeted his daughter joyfully and asked her to come quickly, and also called her his beloved. He heard she met the Crown Prince and even the princess. She's such a good girl. She must understand how proud her father is of her. She is his treasure, and he loves her so much. But suddenly, the rabbit threw him off. The rabbit thought he was just showing off, but he actually went for a hug. The Duke was angry because the princess's rabbit was acting up again, just like a dog protecting its owner. A smart rabbit. However, he is still a useless creature, and it must think about what can replace him when things improve a little. Larissa said that she would go, but the gentleman stopped her and asked if she had arranged the next meeting. The girl confirmed this and said that he should not worry, because as she promised, she would do everything in her power. Larissa would try to be the perfect daughter for him. The maid didn't understand at all why her mistress was acting this way. She thought the mistress wouldn't be able to resist and would tell him everything she thought. But the mistress was confident that everything would be fine. Now is the time to show what she can do. So she will do everything in her power, so she shouldn't worry so much. The Duke is selfish, but he's far from stupid. That's a good thing anyway. But sometimes she really does look like the Duchess of old. The girl was shocked and didn't understand how this could happen. Ellie said she didn't mean her appearance, but also how she behaved. Something along those lines. Larissa asked if it was a compliment, and if so, she was grateful. Although it wasn't what she wanted to hear, as that wasn't the life she wanted to live. After this, the maid asked her what kind of life she wanted to live. The girl said she didn't even know. But first she'd like to get married. She wants to build a family with her loved one. She just wants to live like an ordinary person. It's so banal. Besides, she'd like to take up writing because she loves reading and wants to at least try it. And fencing also seems interesting. After this, the mistress asked how the maid would like to spend her life. And she wants to open a flower shop this place. Although beautiful and majestic is stuffy here, she wants to grow her own garden. The lady agreed, because it sounded wonderful. They continued talking about flowers. People who live authentic lives are so happy. It's too difficult. So she goes to bed and also says goodbye to her rabbit. The next day, an invitation arrived. A tea party at the palace, and an invitation from the Strelitz family. It's an invitation to the summer residence. She thinks the meeting at the opera went well, but it's unclear whether it was for better or worse. The princess decided to throw a cool tea party again. And although it all started out rather awkwardly, it all worked out in the end. The Duke wants her to get closer to the princess. She's sweet, does whatever she wants, and reminds her of her younger siblings. That is her beloved brother and sister. The dress should arrive just the day before the tea party. If she doesn't make it, she'll need to choose something nice from her wardrobe. However, there's another problem. An invitation from the Strelitz family. And for the summer presidential ceremony at that. The Strelitz family are very important guests in their kingdom, so they were accommodated in the palace. But in addition to this, they also have a separate residence in the capital. Although it is called a summer residence, it is actually a castle, a real one. They are not even residents of this country and come here very, very rarely, but they managed to build a huge castle here. Moreover, they are so concerned about confidentiality that they never invite anyone there. All the employees are foreigners, and they are the ones who don't talk much. The lady didn't understand why she had been invited. Then, there would be an exhibition for rabbit lovers. The rabbit realized that this was all Sen's doing. He was his right hand. The idea for the opera was also his. He set it all up to find out where he was. They assumed the Duke was a big fan of rabbits, but he was a man. The gentleman really wanted San to come up with something different next time. Larissa didn't understand at all why men couldn't like rabbits. The maid remarked that the Grand Duke was simply very masculine, and had always been so. The man is a wolf, and the woman is a rabbit. Women usually love everything cute and fluffy. The lady told Ellie that she actually wanted to wear pants all the time, because they looked so comfortable. However, the beggar Larissa, or Duchess Gernoa, is a woman, so such pants remained an unfulfilled dream for her. She had heard that in neighboring countries, women could wear pants while shooting or riding a horse, but this was not possible in their country. Throughout her life, dresses, dresses, dresses. It's not that she hates skirts. And the fact is that she wants to wear whatever she wants, so you don't understand at all because there's nothing bad about it. Since childhood, she considered all these divisions between purely male and purely female interests to be simple nonsense. She loves rabbits, not because she is a girl, because she likes her rabbit Lun. The Duke immediately became embarrassed and blushed. She noted that she also loves flowers, not because she is a girl, but because they are beautiful. To be honest, she doesn't fully understand, but she thinks that the lady is right in some way. Dividing interests by gender is stupid. Larissa was grateful to her because she was the only one who listened to and understood her. Back when she was little, her mother always scolded her when she brought up the subject, telling her she'd never get married. The rabbit also agreed with her. He liked the way this girl thought. Luckily, the tea party and the Strelitz family exhibition were scheduled on different days, so she was able to accept both invitations. Ellie agreed to help her choose the most beautiful dresses from her wardrobe. They are all so fancy and expensive. They are hopelessly out of fashion, and to avoid looking like a country bumpkin, she should choose something else. The dress chosen by the Duke. It goes without saying that the Duke interfered in all their affairs. The gentleman asked if they really intended to put these rags on his daughter. The maids said they were bringing what the Duchess had asked for. She was worried that what she had ordered wouldn't arrive in time, so she asked them to prepare a replacement. Their family members would never stoop to the level of this junk, so these dresses need to be thrown away immediately. They did as he ordered. All these dresses are terrible. The lady was upset because, to me, everything dear means good. It's completely unclear what they should do now. She turned to Ellie and noted that she had taken some notes, so she suggested that she alter these dresses and make something usable out of them. If anyone found out that she had altered her old dresses, she would be the laughingstock of the town, so she should think about it again. She is a duchess, after all. Everything will be fine. They will hope that the screensaver will still arrive, and they will not have to do anything. Ellie said that in that case, she would make arrangements. The lady noted, however, that it all must remain a secret. A few days later, the Lanter family estate, the rabbit failed again. Just a little bit more, and he would have been able to send a signal to send. The tea party is about to start, and the dress hasn't arrived yet, so they have no idea whether she'll make it. Initially, they said they would deliver it this evening, but due to a small error in the sewing, they said the payment would arrive tomorrow. Things are bad. The maid confirmed this. However, the dress they altered looks absolutely beautiful. She was a little worried about the jewelry she insisted on, but the silver embroidery makes it look absolutely gorgeous. It's simply 100 times better than the dress the Duke offered. The lady truly has golden hands. Larissa said the materials were simply good. The rabbit noted that she seemed to have very low self-esteem. The design she's come up with here is 100 times better than what the kingdom's best tailors offer. If she keeps this up, she might just open her own tailor shop. He wished he could tell her that, but unfortunately, to be honest, he was just a yellow rabbit. It would be better if he became a parrot. Then at least he could say something he doesn't understand at all what to do. Ellie told the lady to look at the rabbit, as she'd never seen him rub his cheeks like that before. Apparently, he was also delighted with the dress. Larissa even felt embarrassed by this and smiled. She was grateful to both of them. All that's left is to choose a suitable necklace. Something not too fancy so as not to overshadow the jewelry sewn into the dress. The maid said she'd bring it now. But all these decorations are so ducal. Unfortunately, everything she wears normally clashes with the dress. All that jewelry is so expensive. However, it is so obvious that they were chosen by the dukes that such a duchess would never have chosen something like that. When she first came here, she couldn't understand, but after living here for a while, she understood why the duchess committed suicide. She would not wear these blood-stained ornaments, so he ordered that a carriage be prepared quickly because she was going to buy new ones. She told the rabbit that she had a lot of things to do today, so she couldn't take him with her, so she asked him not to get bored here. The Duke went crazy. He did not understand at all what was happening, because he felt the magic, and it really was returning to him. Could it really be because of that kiss? Come to think of it, you were like all those days when he felt the magic returning to him. The lady either wished him good night or simply behaved especially friendly towards him. The Strelitz family's magic is activated when it's time to find true love, and only through love, magic can one become human again. Perhaps if she kisses him constantly, he can regain his former form. He wondered how many kisses he could withstand. He would think about that later, but for now he had to write a letter to Sans. He feels like he now has enough strength to send a letter. The man remarked that he knew she had excellent taste because this sapphire suited the lady perfectly. Its price is very high. This necklace is so beautiful and unique that it will perfectly complement her beauty, which is why it is so expensive. Ellie told the lady that their goal was to take revenge on the Duke by emptying his wallet. For the money she spends on this necklace, she will be able to feed her entire family, even the village, for the rest of her life. For a second, she wanted to steal it, but if she did that, all the people she cared about would die. Larissa felt strange, but her elegant dress simply called for such a necklace. It would surely captivate not only the princess, but also the crown prince. She said it was excellent, and she was taking it, and suddenly a woman came in and said she would pay 3 times as much for it. It was the Marchioness of Barviti. The Barviti family. From the very beginning, their relationship with the Lanter family wasn't the best. In ancient times during war, their ancestors fought shoulder to shoulder. However, after the victory, a dark side ran between them. Everyone forgot about Barviti. Thus, the Lanter family became dukes, while the Barviti remained marquises. The noble duke and the marquise, who follows him, however, these are all the deeds of their ancestors. Now, everything is different. The Lanter family is impoverished and left without a legitimate heir. and the eldest son of the Barviti family distinguishes himself well in battle with the savages. Perhaps they will succeed in obtaining the title of duke this time. Then now she is in the prime of her beauty, and the marquise has not yet blossomed. However, in a couple of years, the situation will change dramatically, and she will surpass her in her beauty and youth. The seller was completely at a loss as to what to do. According to social norms, she should give up the necklace to her, as she was of higher status. So the seller found himself in a difficult situation. How could he sell the necklace to the marquise in a way that would offend the duchess? Everything turned out this way, but she is not at all worried. It's even funny, it's interesting to know how best to proceed. So the lady said she'd give him twice as much as the marquis. So the girl said she'd give him another half as much. They continued arguing. The duchess decided not to lower the bid. She would raise the price indefinitely. The woman introduced wouldn't buy the necklace anyway. She's just trying to get on her nerves, even though she's doing nothing but raising the price. No matter how rich their family is, they still have some limits on how much they can spend. No matter how beautiful this necklace was, the price for it was simply insane. It was not worth that much. So the duchess said that she agreed that the marquise had won. She was about to throw away a huge amount of money for nothing. The seller was very happy because he had earned more than he had in a year. Ellie asked the lady if everything was okay. Larissa said yes, but the moment she put it on, its value to her vanished. Now rumors will start to spread that will make her look like a complete fool, because only a fool would buy such a necklace for such a price. In fact, if it weren't for that dress, she would have given up sooner. Her dress is very similar to the one she ordered. The maid thought it was a coincidence, but the duchess pointed out that it was not, and that she had done it on purpose to annoy her. What she didn't know until she began playing the role of an aristocrat was the importance of clothing. The country's most beautiful aristocrats compete with each other in their outfits. There's a rule not to wear similar designs for more than 2 weeks. The outfit the marquise was wearing today is very reminiscent of the duchess's. It feels like she's only slightly improved it. If she had worn the dress she had ordered to the party, she would not only have disgraced herself, but she would have disgraced the duke and his entire family. Although it is a shame that the quality suffered making another dress was the right decision, Ellie said that, however, she did not understand how this was even possible, how she managed to repeat her dress even before it was ready. They should go and sort this out. But the lady said that there was no need to do this, because everything was fine, and it was better for them to go home. Even if the maid were to criticize them, nothing would change. All the tailor shops share their designs, so they wouldn't be identical. That's the problem. She can't understand how they were able to produce an exact replica in such a short time. The mistress announced that the maid must report everything to the duke. As naturally as possible, she should first tell the story about the necklace, and then mention that they had wanted to humiliate them by revealing the true design. But after the tea party, if they start a scandal now, it will really hinder them. Ellie always understands her mistress very well. Let the duke sort this out. It's not the first time, and he'll close a couple of sewing shops, and the matter will be resolved. The necklace is a shame, of course, but I need to concentrate on how to catch the eye of the crown prince again. A gift was delivered to the lady. Larissa was surprised, and couldn't understand who it could be from. But when she looked at the card, she realized it was a gift for a rabbit lover. A black envelope. It is similar to the symbol of the Grand Duke of Strelitz, and therefore cannot be used by anyone else on the continent. In fact, when she first picked it up, she only felt an inexplicable fear. However, the content is so funny. It's even cuter than last time. For rabbit lovers, they sent her a thank you note for accepting the previous offer. He hoped the gift would please the young lady. The maid remarked that these were jewels made only in the Grand Duke's country. The price of one tiny stone in this necklace exceeds the price of the same one she gave away in the marquise several times. Beautiful diamonds that enhance the wearer's strength. In addition to their rarity, the sparkle of these magical stones can add exquisite beauty and elegance to any outfit. Ellie added that it matched her dress so well and was 100 times better than the marquise's. As planned, she found the perfect necklace to complete her look. In that case, she decided to wear it. The princess was very interested in the Grand Duke after all, so this necklace would only add to their conversation. The Duke was surprised to realize she'd received a gift for a rabbit lover. Sen the little bastard could have come up with a more original reason. Since everything turned out so well, the maid will now quickly prepare something delicious to celebrate. Although the rabbit is glad that he was able to help, everything was fine because it went according to plan. But someone will be without half their salary for several months. Sen shuddered. The lady turned to Lun and asked him what he thought the Grand Duke was like, and named him after him. To think that the events at the opera had such a profound impact on her future, she thinks there must have been a terrible misunderstanding. Surely the Duke thought that he had been living with her for several years, and she was not sure that she could accept such an expensive gift from him. The Duke did not understand why this woman had such nonsense, because when they give, you have to take it, and when they beat you, you have to run away. The password seems like she has some kind of well-thought-out plan, but she's still a bit odd. Larissa decided to wear the necklace to the tea party and then give it back in person when they met. She loves the rabbit, but she's not exactly a rabbit lover. This necklace already belongs to her, so she should forget about it. She noticed that he was so sweet and was getting sweeter and sweeter every day. She was so happy that he had managed to become her friend, so she kissed him again. That's what he thought, the magic had returned to him again. Now he was absolutely sure that every time she kissed him, he received a charge of magic. In this case, the hunt for a kiss has begun. He just needs to forget, and he is ready to do anything just to get back to his business as soon as possible. He stretched very sweetly, and the lady said that he was simply adorable and asked him to do it again. On the day of the tea party, even though the event was planned for her, that didn't mean she had to be the only one attending. In order to get closer to the royal family, women from all over the kingdom come to the palace. In short order, here's the order of importance of the various aristocratic families. First place, from which it's very easy to fall. Second place is an opportunity to become first after some time. Third place, fourth place, and so on. People were hoping they'd get a glimpse of Princess Charlotte today. Another lady remarked that she was so cute. Everyone compared her to a kitten, she was so adorable. The lady had seen her at the opera, so they asked her how I and the little one who were so guarded by His Highness the Emperor. Larissa said she was charming, beautiful, and smart too. It was exactly as they thought. Marchioness Barvidi's dress is so wonderful and suits her very well, and she has a beautiful necklace too. The Marquise smiled and asked Duchess Lantera how I was with her necklace and wanted to hear her opinion. She remarked that it was beautiful and worth the money she had paid for it, and the Marquise asked again what she meant. Her Highness Princess Charlotte and His Highness Prince Caden. Everyone was absolutely delighted when they heard the prince was here. Larissa knew it. Everything was going just fine. It was the Marchioness who corrected etiquette. She should have stood behind her, but her impudence knows no bounds. They were glad to meet the gentleman. This Marquise is such an ill-bred girl. The Marquise wanted to say something to Her Highness, but the princess was very happy when she saw the Duchess and began to run to her, saying that she missed her very much. So be it, the princess only interacted with Genoa. Frankly, she hates tea. However, her mother says that with the help of the tea party, she can make friends with other girls, so she obliges the princess to arrange them. The Duchess is now the center of attention, because the young princess is addressing her alone. She suggests that if she doesn't like it, she could add milk to it, and it would taste better. No one disturbed them, and in any case, everyone was happy. Because she had the princess occupied, they were able to fully enjoy the prince's attention. Although she noticed that he was looking only at her, their eyes met again. He can't even count how many times this has happened. 3 beautiful girls sit around him, and the principal still doesn't take his gaze off Genoa. Whether it was a coincidence or not is unclear. Still, she managed to attract his attention. In fact, she thinks that all this talk is deadly boring. It's better to play tag with the princess. The princess told the lady that there was a black fish there and remarked that it looked very much like the rabbit she was holding. Charlotte remarked that she also wanted it, and that it would be great if there were rabbits running around in this garden. The princess tried to whine and beg, but she was told that it was impossible. Only birds were allowed, but rabbits were not allowed. But she found Luna right here. Besides, she's not entirely sure whose clothes they were. Suddenly, the princess noticed her necklace. She didn't notice it at first, but then she took a closer look. And now, she is absolutely sure that these are diamonds from the country of the Grand Duke. It is 100% them. She has never seen a necklace of such quality. The princess also heard that sorcerers use such diamonds. The more she looks at it, the more she likes it. And she asks her to tell her where she bought it, because the princess wants one too. Jernoa was shocked that it was truly so precious. The lady remarked that it truly did shine. The other lady also agreed. They weren't even a match for her. They would never have thought that diamonds of that caliber could be made into a necklace. It turns out that everyone here understands jewelry, but the Duchess had no idea that these stones are not made into jewelry, but are kept as artifacts. Jernoa said she received it as a gift. She couldn't say what the Duke had sent her, so she'd invent a legend that she'd received it from a distant acquaintance, and from another side. The princess could not believe that this gift could be from the Grand Duke, and was shocked that they were friends, because no one but the Grand Duke could have given her such a necklace. The lady didn't even know what to say. The Marquise said they were some kind of stones, and that her brother brought her some too. She didn't know what magical properties they had. However, they highlight feminine beauty better than anyone else. The prince turned to Madame Lantera and said he wished to discuss something with her in private. This greatly angered the Marquise. After these events, the maid asked the Duchess what had happened at the tea party. The lady has not gotten out of bed for a long time. An hour has already passed, so she thinks that something has happened. The lady did not understand at all why all people solve problems with lies, but she only adds to them for herself. Ellie had no idea what she was talking about. She met the prince today. The maid was completely shocked when she said this, and didn't even expect her mistress to become so close to the crown prince so quickly. Larissa realized she shouldn't have accepted the necklace. The prince said that he wanted to discuss something with the Grand Duke, but because the latter was ill and did not appear in public, he was never able to meet him, so he asked her to contact him instead. It's strange because how can a sick person throw parties? There might be some other reason here that they don't know about. It's a really big reason. Well, everything is going according to plan, now somewhere to meet him. Caden will constantly hang around Larissa. Like a princess, his girl will thus become the center of attention. And the Marchioness Barviti won't be able to do anything about it, no matter how much she wants to. Yes. So he will be able to repay Larissa for everything she has done for him. However, the Duke feels strange and doesn't quite understand what it means. The gentleman asked where his daughter had gone. She said she had received an invitation from the daughter of an aristocratic family. Because she had left in such a hurry, she said nothing about her departure. The gentleman paused for thought. She is connected to him by the bonds called family. The daughter is a very obedient child, but lately she has become a little suspicious. The Duke asked Sebastian if he had spoken to Ellie. He confirmed this, and she conveyed that the princess was only working diligently to achieve her goal. It seems the princess is very busy trying to turn chance encounters with His Highness Crown Prince Caden into destiny. True they are, but something here makes him nervous. He has a premonition that they are hiding something from him. The Duke means that if he ignores him, the mountain of gold he has accumulated could disappear in one game of cards. Sebastian informed the gentleman that he had found out that there had recently been a situation in the salon with the Marquise Barviti. The gentleman was completely shocked that she had dared to mock Lanter's golden flower. After that, he asked what kind of shop it was. He ordered the building to be blown up or the owner killed. It didn't matter, he had to do everything to close the shop. The lady was given a catalog of a new clothing store. This is excellent. She likes the style of this store much better than the previous one. Ellie noted that she had looked for it with such diligence for the lady, and she was so glad that she liked it. She also decided to ask if everything would definitely be okay with them. Now they're going to a reception for rabbit lovers. The lady said that just yesterday, one of them was so eager to go to the Strelitz residence. That's true, but she's still a little scared. Frankly, it's a strange reception for rabbit lovers. After all, besides the mistress, there are no daughters of aristocrats in the empire who raise rabbits with such love, and they get here by such a terrifying road. After that, they laughed, and Ranka had the feeling that they were going to a haunted house. But it's interesting. Larissa noted that she thought so too, but they were not going to anyone else, but to the Grand Duke Hadelin himself. Of course, it won't hide from human eyes and ears, but perhaps such a forest was specially created to keep no one close. By the way, Lung is feeling a bit lethargic today, and the lady is very worried about him. Perhaps she shouldn't have brought him along. The rabbit remarked that since she had already arrived at the crow's nest, they would soon arrive at their destination. This was just what he wanted. Everything is going the way he wanted, but his soul doesn't feel any better. Sen welcomed the lady to the Strelitz residence. He is the host of today's reception, and his name is Sen. Larissa was grateful for this, but the maid stared at him for some reason and became embarrassed. This mansion is simply beautiful, unlike the forest nearby. This place is designed to closely resemble the archducal castle. They said there would be a reception, but as she thought she was the only guest. Compared to such a huge mansion, they have quite a few servants, and looking at how the table is set, she is sure that the Strelitzes intended to invite only her from the very beginning. The lady told Duke Sane that she had accepted His Majesty the Grand Duke's invitation for a reason. But suddenly, he announced timidly that he had intended to say that the gentleman would not be appearing today. And then she asked the lady if she had picked up this rabbit in the imperial palace. This rabbit belongs to His Majesty the Grand Duke. He guarded it with great care, but accidentally lost it. The lady remarked that in that case, it seemed the clothes belonged to the Grand Duke. The servant didn't quite understand, so she decided to explain that when she first discovered the rabbit, someone else's clothes were lying next to it. Sen noted that this was understandable, since there was a small lake nearby, and the Grand Duke wanted to take a little swim. It is clear that this man is lying. However, she does not understand the reason for all this at all. The lady said that a few days ago she had been in the garden in the western part of the palace. Although the lake was quite far from there, she had only been there to return her pet. This problem could have been solved with one simple letter, so it is completely unclear why the Grand Duke had to arrange this whole circus and not show himself again. I just noticed that he thinks the distance from His Majesty's chambers to the bathroom is about the same. Whatever the case, he apparently has a very interesting preference. Whatever the reason, if the Grand Duke really cared about Lune, he would have come out here, so she doesn't believe it. She said she couldn't believe he'd even taken off his underwear and run to the lake like that. And then she realized what she'd said. Larissa did not understand at all how of all the mistakes she could make this one. In such a situation, I wouldn't have thought of either the Duchess or Larissa. It wasn't said intentionally. The servant remarked that it was understandable. To tell the truth, she feels like it was her interlocutor who led the conversation in this direction. Well, it can't be helped. She was the one who ultimately dealt the awkward, decisive blow. The mistress thinks it would be better to break this quiet atmosphere, wanting the opportunity to speak frankly. In general, she is alarmed by the fact that she cannot find out the reason why the Grand Duke specially arranged a reception for her, instead of simply sending a letter. Moreover, he didn't even show his face, so she finds it hard to believe he's actually the rabbit's owner. Sen was simply delighted that she was calling the rabbit by that name. The lady was surprised and asked again, but the servant hesitated. She knew something was fishy, so she thought it was time to send a letter to His Majesty, the heir to the throne, and return immediately. Suddenly, the lady noticed something was wrong with her rabbit. His condition was not normal, so she needed to take him to the vet immediately. There is a specialized doctor living on their estate, so she doesn't have to worry. It felt like her rabbit was being taken away from her, but she couldn't say anything about it. The maid flew over and said that they were lucky because there was no doctor in the Duke's house who could examine the rabbit. That was true, and the lady was grateful for the consolation, and now she understood that she shouldn't have taken the moon with her. Her selfishness was to blame for everything. Larissa did not understand at all how she could take her baby, who had been unwell since the morning, with her so far away. I thought that he would be useful to her in her affairs, so she hopes it doesn't hurt too much. It hurts. It really hurts. And the servant doesn't understand why rabbit paws are so strong. This is simply illogical for herbivores. Even a bear would probably be weaker. He thinks the gentleman is overreacting and can't believe he's using magical kicks to beat his only and most devoted childhood friend. He did it all to help him. The servant understood that he had said that he was guilty and believed that he had already made his decision. Tell the whole truth to the Duchess and officially ask her for help, or hide the truth from her, and continue to receive help just as I have done up until now. Sen is convinced that the Duchess's love for him is the key to breaking the magic. This is indeed true, and that's the whole problem. She who cares about him so much, she loves him, and thinks of him as a small and weak animal. This love lives and will not disappear if she finds out the truth that he is actually a human. If she suddenly becomes even slightly weaker, the magic will be destroyed, he decided. Sen approached the Duchess and said that this man was the Grand Duke of Hadalun de Strelitz. He can't reveal the truth. The servant remarked that his master was indeed a handsome man, and being a cautious man, he only had two portraits of himself. One of them hangs in the chambers of the emperor's daughter. However, he decided to show her his true self. The lady remarked that the illustration she had seen was of poor quality. The rabbit decided that he would use sand to exchange letters with her. He was very sorry that he could not greet her personally, as the heir to the throne had told her the Grand Duke was indeed unwell. Well, despite this, he tries so hard to ask her to keep a good eye on Looney. The Duchess said that there was a misunderstanding, so she asks for forgiveness. And by the way, she is wondering if she can really take Luna to her place. Sen noted that they were relying on her. There was no one among them, except the Grand Duke, who could handle this guy. And they'll keep sending her letters about the rabbit. If something like today happens, all she needs to do is give him some salad and wine, and he'll feel better. This guy is very different from ordinary rabbits. He was brought from a distant continent and has a special body structure. The lady should not worry and just continue to look after him, as she has been doing all the time. He is very sensitive to loneliness. The lady couldn't understand why the Grand Duke would entrust his rabbit to a saintly stranger like her. However, it was too sweet a request to refuse. The lady wants to be with Luke. It seems she's become very close to him lately. It's simply incredible. The lady was able to convey the letter to His Majesty, the heir to the throne, and become acquainted with the Grand Duke. Ellie couldn't believe that everything had worked out so well. It was just like some kind of dream. For Larissa, it was like a dream too. For the rabbit too. For the first time in a long time, he'd had a sip of wine. This Sen, although he is a little stupid, is good at understanding what he wants. The road back to the Duke's estate. After they passed through the forest that surrounded the Strelitz residence, the sun rose and the sky became clear. It was as if I had been in some other world for a while. As if it was just a dream. Jace de Barvidi, the Marquis's son, lost to the Crown Prince after a rather lengthy sparring match. Crown Prince Caden noted that the victory flag was not hung without reason, and his skills had grown. His skills were such that he was no longer fit to be his master's heel. Caden asked if he thought he'd just eliminated all the servants in the area. If he wants James to drop formalities, he should become emperor and hand over the decree. Then he'll think about it. The prince called him a curmudgeon. Incidentally, he wondered if the gentleman had met his younger sister. Caden noted that he had met her at a tea party, but this cannot be called dated, because he addressed her not as a candidate for the crown prince's wife, but as a tree. The prince asked what he was even talking about, since he thought he'd talked to her twice, as much as he had to the other ladies. He seemed to be talking about the Duchess now, and not about his younger sister Shamila. It's just that it has something to do with the Strelitz family. And since he is a fool to me, the master thinks that he will understand what is more important for the crown prince. James was confident that he had already chosen his future wife, and the gentleman confirmed it. On this continent, the only friends he can share his feelings with are Hadalun and James. Hadalun has no family, so he can be excluded, and he has too many worries. He asked if James really thought he was a fool who would hand over the crown through someone else's influence. After these words, the boy apologized. There is no need to do that, because he can call him his friend, because he believes that he will not misunderstand him regarding this matter. The Duchess of Lantera has arrived. This time, too, she was on time. This lady is never late. He believed that James also wanted to meet Hadalun's so-called friend, the beautiful liar. Quite a while passed after her trip to the Strelitz residence. During this period, she regularly sent carrier pigeons to the Grand Duke and the Crown Prince. Because everything was going too smoothly, she even began to feel a little uneasy. She said it was a gift from the Strelitz family. He's so obedient, just like a trained dog. Could it be because he's a rare breed? The lady said it wasn't a gift, and she had been entrusted with it for a time. She met the Grand Duke after accidentally picking up and nursing a rabbit he'd lost. Both the prince and the Marquis's son believed this was a lie. Hadalun himself, who had always avoided both rabbits and girls, suddenly fell in love with both one day. Duchess Lantera, you've seen all the girls he's sent to Hadaluna all this time. He's treated them even worse than a log. He immediately ordered them to be removed. Regarding the rabbits, he even wanted them to hang around him. However, this letter is definitely written in the Grand Duke's handwriting and even bears the perfect seal of the ducal family. Today was also fun, so the gentleman looks forward to their next meeting with the Duchess. Larissa wished for the bright sun to shine forever over the empire. The Marquis's son didn't quite understand what all this meant. Kaiden remarked that he was beginning to suspect that their Duchess was practicing some kind of witchcraft. Perhaps she had hypnotized Hadolin, and he had many sleepless nights trying to find the answer to this question. He hoped James would find out the answer. This Kaiden, lucky to be born into the imperial family, was now bragging about these points. He doesn't care what the truth is, because if Hadolin, who is even more arrogant than Kaiden, fell for the girl's hook and lost the ability to solve his problems on his own, then he would laugh heartily. However, he must ensure that Kaiden, who will become emperor in the near future, does not fall into this girl's clutches. Simple interest can turn into love in an instant. This time, the letter is unusually long, so I'm curious what it says. The lady remarked that she doesn't think they should bother with their affairs. The maid was shocked that her mistress wasn't curious. Larissa asked again, surprised. The lady is always lost in thought whenever she receives a letter. The girl said she wasn't interested in the contents. The way he looked at her then would have been very rash to consider a sign of sympathy. His Highness seemed to be tracking her every gesture, right down to her blink. Ellie noticed what had happened, and she was sure he was captivated by her beauty. A tear even came to my eye at the thought that her efforts to get her look done had paid off. Larissa felt as if she were being studied. It was time to take the next step, and the maid remarked that her mistress could feign dizziness and pretend to accidentally fall into his arms. Larissa has a feeling she's doing something wrong and missing something. Kaiden is full of doubt, even though the Grand Duke orchestrated it all. He had a smile on his face that concealed the iceberg's cold within. But that was only the beginning. His best friend can't help but be curious, and he's sure he'll be thinking about everything all day. The Duke Rabbit doesn't like this at all. But why is unclear. Ellie's mistress told Ta not to get carried away. The lady noted that she was indeed right. In any case, his appearance did not seem happy to her. There was some noise outside, so the maid decided to go and check Larissa didn't mind, since it was bothering her too. Whatever that look from Prince Kaiden meant, young Master Barviti looked at her the same way. It was difficult to tell whether it was a look of hatred or affection. A maid burst into the room and shouted to my lady that Master James had arrived. He was talking with the Duke in the drawing room, so she had to go there immediately. James is one of the Crown Prince's most treasured friends. Although everyone knows the relationship between their families isn't the best, it's hard to imagine what would happen if something happened to young Mr. Barviti here. The Duke couldn't be allowed to do anything stupid. The man wasn't quite sure what to make of his uninvited visit. Larissa entered the room and noticed that she had forgotten that the day had already arrived when her dear guest was supposed to arrive. James walked up to Lady and kissed her hand and said that he was glad to meet her again. Politeness was unnecessary. What about the Duke, because he didn't even deign to look at her? He noted that his visit had been unexpected, but he had never expected to receive such a valuable gift from him. The Duke's favorite foreign wine, who had recently encountered some financial difficulties. He thought the gentleman had decided to show off his superiority. He had dozens of such bottles and could sing them whenever he wanted. Since this isn't their first meeting, they can skip the introductions. The Count's voice softened. He hadn't known about the incident with his sister the previous time they met, so he apologized for the belated apology for the stupid joke. But if the salon was closed, then there was no need to worry about gossip spreading in society. The Duke remarked that he was still hurt by the fact that what had happened had nearly caused his daughter trouble. The gentleman asked that the Duke take it as a sign of their remorse. In addition, he must note that his sister still has a long way to go to reach Lady Genoa's level. The lady remarked that he was being too kind. The Duke realized that this was information that would help him pay off all the debts he had incurred from gambling. Perhaps he has views on the golden flower of society, and perhaps he needs her. Does he really think he's so mad as to hand over his precious daughter to Barviti's clutches? However, since they had provided a bit of information, he remarked that it was a nice gift. He then had to leave because he needed to take care of something. He also asked his daughter to take care of the guest. She was shocked that he would simply leave and leave them alone. She was even afraid to imagine what the Crown Prince would think if he found out about this. A girl who plays hard to get can be a real thorn in the side of an inexperienced young man. The Duke noticed that surprise was practically etched on her face. Only in his utter madness would he have sold her to those Barviti slackers. He asked her to entertain him while he had a couple of drinks, and then they would have a nice chat. Father and I have been working hand in hand to save our family for longer, and it's wonderful. But Larissa said she refuses. James pointed out that he hadn't said a word yet, but she didn't have to listen to him to refuse in advance. Larissa also added that he should be thanked for his kindness. He was shocked by you because she didn't even glance in his direction. The guy thought it was all because he was Barvidi Lantera. And Barvidi. That sounds like a great reason to refuse. In that case, the gentleman decided to be frank, and it seems she has views on Caden. Larissa said that she has, so he should know his place and give up what he has planned. James said that no matter what she did, Caden and his sister would be there. Larissa added that she would be frank. If he'd managed to subdue those savages, he was already far superior to her in achievements. He asked her to stop interrupting him, but the lady said again that he had already said that she was more beautiful, and now she was asking him to leave her house. James grabbed her hand and said that he was sure that the one who would end up regretting it would be the one on. The girl asked if he still thought he was on the battlefield and had forgotten his status. He will say only one thing. The prince doesn't care who is caught in his carefully laid net, a butterfly or a bee. He also asked if she knew what the prince called her. He lives with her beautiful liar. So while he's still kind, suddenly a window broke, and no one knew who did it. The rabbit was displeased because he was aiming for the wrist. He hadn't liked James when they were kids, but the fact that he was such trash was a big revelation. After providing first aid, the Marquis left the estate in a hurry, and she decided to pour out her father's wine, despite the fact that more than half was still left. If he can't drink, then he shouldn't be so addicted to alcohol. He calls her a handsome liar. She decided to tell this to the rabbit, and noted that when Barvidi said this, she thought that it would be very good to be the crown prince. In that world, whoever it was that grabbed her hand frightened her more than the thought of the plan failing. At that moment, she couldn't do anything, beauty status and elegance. Those were her only strengths. The annoying thing is that even if she were a true countess, it would be useless without the recognition of her peers. She didn't want to believe that she would have to be weak to be a thing that would be used for the rest of her days. Larissa wants to become strong. Suddenly the rabbit started using magic. He didn't know she'd be so upset. The rabbit realized that he should not have allowed her to meet with that scoundrel James. He didn't want her to cry. He wanted to tell her that getting upset over such bastards was stupid. And he also wanted to say that she was already strong, that she was doing more than perfectly well. But if she was thirsty for more power, then he would like to become it for her. Suddenly, the rabbit grew enormous, causing her to faint. At that very moment, the rabbit turned into a duke and grabbed her. He had no idea what had happened. The spell wore off without a kiss. He decided to take her to rest first. So it turns out that magic can be broken with more than just a kiss. This curse has many rules, but that's not important. Since it was removed, it will be necessary to send her a letter as quickly as possible in the morning, because she will worry when they do not find it nearby tomorrow. Then he will greet her as expected and really wants her to wait for him. Amazing curse words impossible to convey through human language. Sen learned wonderful news. He believes the answer lies in more than just a gentle kiss from the lady. The rabbit wrote him a letter. The gentleman was very happy as there was more work, but since the news was good, his strength increased. He suppressed the Duke's things that time. But what will happen when the spell wears off? The Duke assured him that when the spell develops, he wears simple clothing, but it's inconvenient to move around in, so he must prepare a portable magical mechanism that can accommodate the necessary clothing. Not much time had passed since the young Master Barvidi's last visit. About 4 days, no a week. Tears won't solve the problem. Action is needed. It doesn't matter whether the Crown Prince suspects her. Now she knows that since he didn't push her away, there's still a chance, so she needs to take the initiative. And you need to do this to get closer to him and stop being just a homing pigeon. It's important to understand how else you can please him. Strength would be useful here. Fencing, martial arts, and magic are unavailable to me. And the embroidery on the cake is that the decorations that give it charm are not even hers personally. But there is a way to gain power. It's invisible and difficult to steal. It's information. Something the Barvidi don't know. Something that will hook Prince Caden. This information is about Hadelin. The Grand Duchy of Keelan Strelitz, which preserves the Devil's Lair, is located in the central part of the continent. For centuries, they maintained neutrality in relations with their neighbors, to maintain balance, except for the state of Lancel Q de Zelen. This happened because the former Grand Duchess of Strelitz was descended from the Lancel family. This didn't entail anything significant, but only at first glance. That's why you have such high import prices for magic stones in your country. But they need even more. The value of magic stones is not only in the fact that they enhance abilities, because not only magic swords contain deadly evil spirits. He'll need them for this too. The Crown Prince needs the magic stones. This is just a guess, but based on what is happening, Larissa's confident in it. My brother has a whole bunch of things for me, but they're not enough. Does that mean he'll have to try harder to get him and the Grand Duke married? If she became Grand Duchess, she could ask the Duke to give much more to the state. However, she's not entirely clear why he needs them, how much more he needs, or what the Grand Duke thinks about it. It will be difficult to find answers to questions if they haven't met yet. Unfortunately, the Grand Duke is still unable to leave. However, he ordered that he receive her as befits. No problem, because he would tell her everything himself. Information about the Duke that wasn't found in the book will help make it seem like they are close and getting along. This way, even if she fails to obtain the magic stones, she can pretend that she will. They are right, and the lady will show them what it is like to date a beautiful liar. Sen noted that they would begin with an examination. A smile makes the Duchess more beautiful, and her title is not an empty phrase. It's great that the Duke's favorite snacks are ready. Why have people come today? She wanted to find out about him, apparently, because Kaidan suspected her, so he ordered the servant to tell her everything he wanted, except information about his identity. What she asked was if he was sure about it, because before he was very careful and did not tell even minor facts about himself. Over the past few years, he has gotten to know this girl well, and one could say that he is repaying his debt. The servant asked since when this had bothered him, but the Duke began to threaten him again, so the servant immediately stopped. He begged the master to stop looking like that. A herbivore didn't emit such an aura, and he was too young to be afraid of rabbits. The gentleman told him to stop talking nonsense and take it back to her. The lady remarked that it suited him, and she liked it, but she wasn't sure if it was comfortable for him. Sen noted that she shouldn't worry if she hadn't. He would have already torn it off. He's right, though, because that's what her rabbit is like. Thanks to Lun, the conversation started with itself, and the knowledge of conversation that she acquired in high society helped her smoothly transition from rabbit to its owner. I thought it wouldn't be easy to get the Duke's servant to talk, but in fact he answers as if he was just waiting for her to ask. The Grand Duke hates rabbits, so Lun is special because he was able to change the Duke's perception. Now it is clear why the Crown Prince suspected her, and in fact it was they who changed him. He actually drinks cold water and overgrown glaciers, and loves the color black and whiskey. He likes black and gold drinks any water, and prefers wine and cocktails as alcohol. Larissa noted that she hadn't imagined him like that. The rabbit thought she was only asking about him, but she should have found out something more formal. They say he killed dozens of evil spirits. In fact, there were several hundred of them. They say he wounded his hand, but in fact his leg. And most importantly, what no one knows is that the Duke's favorite thing is strawberry shortcakes. After that, the rabbit hit him in the face. The lady thought it was very painful, but the gentleman said everything was fine. The rabbit doesn't usually hit people, but perhaps his loud voice frightened him. The Duke didn't understand why he was making a fuss over a scratch. Yes, the Duke went too far. It's nice to make fun of the gentleman by pretending that he's in pain. That's why she's courting him. It's such a relief that he's gotten along with her. Otherwise, even a dragon wouldn't have been able to withstand such blows. It was a strange feeling, as if they were mentally conversing. But the lady simply laughed it off. Sen told the lady that she is always welcome here, so he asks her to come here again. She has such a strange feeling. Perhaps it arose because Sen, despite being a powerful knight, behaved very kindly towards her. But she liked it as if she were visiting a friend. There was a time when her friend, a classmate, was named Sadie. She had eyes like Ellie's. When she wasn't busy with her sisters and brothers, she'd run off to the fields with her. She said that when she grew up, she would ride horses like the boys. And later, she asked Larissa what she wanted to do. The girl was very interested in what adults forbade her to do. That moment, a sudden downpour interrupted her monologue when they left the forest. It was raining. The sky was blacker than the forest full of crows. Perhaps that's why she remembered her. And then she remembered that she needed to stop somewhere before returning to the estate. She thought so. Nothing left. Sadie had lived here before, many years ago. She had set fire to the house and said goodbye to life. The villagers said that she was cursed and that her child was consumed by evil, which is why she went mad. Everyone knows her lover disowned her. It's a very tragic story. Was she glad when he left the village? Or was she sad that she couldn't take revenge? The lady decided to ask Lun if he thought this was the reason why she sympathized with the crown prince, even though all his actions would be meaningless. Even though it was only the duke's order, she can't fall in love with him the way other girls do. He's a good man, handsome, kind, and interesting, but he's completely uninterested in her. She doesn't know what she wants. Perhaps she should run away from the Duke, because the Grand Duke can help her with that. With money, with housing, with anything. Larissa wants to escape, but she doesn't know how. And she's not sure if she'll be happy in an unfamiliar place. Every woman dreams of becoming an empress, but she's not sure there's anything better than that. When she was young, she wanted to try everything, but now she doesn't even know what she wants. The life she dreams of is complicated. The Duke never thought about anything like that. From birth, he was designated as the heir to the family, and he accepted everything as his due, doing what was necessary without thinking. Besides magic, Larissa noticed that when he looked at her like that, she felt like he understood her. And her bunny was so cute, the Duke knew he could handle it, even though it didn't tickle, and it wasn't as bad as kissing. Larissa apologized to him for her depressive mood, and noted that it was time for them to go back, because the maid was probably worried. Suddenly, she heard a very familiar voice. It was Sadie's lover. He came back, and it felt like he had no conscience at all. Lung immediately started struggling, but she tried to calm him down and asked him to sit still. When her eyes met Lun's, she knew what he intended to do. She knew it was stupid, but somehow she had no doubts. She asked him if he wanted to remove it, just like he had hit the Duke, and the rabbit wanted to answer that he wanted to finish him off. The lady placed him gently on the ground and said that she was counting on him, and this time it must be especially strong. So much so that he loses the desire to live for Sadie. They should be going now, and the guy was saying that she was so cute when she resisted, but she shouldn't overdo it. And at that very moment, the rabbit intervened and tossed the scoundrel aside. The girl was in complete shock. She'd never seen a rabbit before, and basically something similar. After all this, Larissa called the rabbit to her, picked it up, and thanked it. They needed to return before dawn and go home quickly. She didn't need to see such disgusting things, because the rabbit had something in mind and carried it out when they had already turned away. The maid was simply horrified because my lady had caught a cold in the rain and also believed that something had happened to her and she had gotten into some kind of accident. Larissa noted that it was difficult for her to describe what was happening and difficult even to believe it. Ellie didn't even know whether it was good or bad, which was hard to believe. After that, the lady asked Ellie if anything had happened. The maid confirmed this and remarked that she would say that they had problems as always with the Duke. Some time has passed since the departure of the young Marquis Sparviti, and he continues to rush around the rooms repeating no information. He does not like this. If it is important, then you need to contact him. The lady noted that this was all his pride, instead of keeping silent, because what happened was accidental. He was probably upset. Ellie asked the mistress if she wanted to take a bath. After much deliberation, the mistress asked what colors the bath would be. The rabbit turned away and remarked that it would have been fine without them. But he thought that rosemary would have been perfect on such a day. And suddenly, Larissa said that she wanted a rosemary bath. The rabbit was shocked by what he had just thought. After that, he realized he didn't need to think about it. Having been with her for so long, he learned a lot without even realizing it. Even so, for some reason, he remembers everything in detail down to the smallest information that another would forget. Out of politeness, they should keep some distance between them. Ellie told my lady not to joke like that because she's not stupid. But the lady asked Ellie to believe her, and she was shocked that it was true. Larissa said she was sure he understood human speech. She had her doubts too, but what had happened had convinced her otherwise. The maid asked if she meant to say that a rabbit could be trained like a dog. Well, Larissa thinks he's even smarter, because this rabbit is special. She wanted to demonstrate the maid, so she called the rabbit to her. He immediately turned to her. The Duke thought that perhaps he should let her know he understood her, so they could communicate. Larissa realized he truly understood, and so she was curious about what next. She asked him to give her his paw, and he did it. Left, right, head, it's just amazing. Larissa said the kiss would be her last. This really scared the rabbit. If he really were a rabbit, it would be no problem, but he's human. And what rabbit would understand such a command anyway? He thought she was asking him to kiss her finger, so he didn't understand at all what he should do. The Duke decided that this could be compared to kissing the hand of the escort to the ball, so he decided to kiss it. It's so sweet. It was weird, and he doesn't feel like his mom has grown any bigger. He should avoid doing that in the future. Surprisingly, the rabbit is well trained, and he is really cute. But the Duke didn't like it. Larissa turned to the rabbit and invited him to take a bath together. The rabbit was simply horrified and tried to stop her. He doesn't understand the question, but in the future it will come back to haunt him. He won't be able to avoid problems ones that will be more than he'll ever know. Larissa told him to sit still, and they'll get it sorted out quickly. The water was lukewarm. It was just a curse, and the rabbit wanted her to just fill his basin with water, because he wouldn't wash himself. And if she insisted, he'd kick her. She noted that he shouldn't be left like that, because he might catch a cold. And then she started coughing herself. Ellie was shocked and immediately approached my lady. But the lady said that everything was fine, and that she would wash the rabbit first and then herself. She asked the maid to make tea and salad for Lun. Ellie said that if she needed anything, she could call her. The rabbit knew he wouldn't survive, but he would try. During the process, the lady praised him and told him he was a good rabbit. And then the gentleman realized that he didn't have to worry so much, since she didn't know that he was human. He is covered in fur, as if in a fur coat, which means he is not naked. That is what he will think. The Duke needed to come up with a way to restore mana, something faster and more effective than a kiss. Before he loses anything else, and before he wants more. The feelings that arise in him when she is near only grow stronger. If she didn't need them, she could simply discard them later. It was already morning, and the girl decided to check the Duchess's schedule. The day of the meeting with the Crown Prince, and next to her is her rabbit. And she noticed that even his back and tail are cute. His fur is very soft, and that makes her happy. After that, she pulled him closer to her and began to hug him. Today, the first thing on Larissa's schedule is to spend the morning with Looney. Marquis Barviti. The girl turned to James and asked him where he had hurt his hand. The bruise looked a couple of days old. Well, father told her not to talk nonsense when I come in because it's not respectful. If she had time to ask stupid questions, she should also find time to look in the mirror and think it over. Otherwise, Kaiden wouldn't even give her a glance. She said she was just worried his mother didn't know he'd hurt himself during practice. Her father pointed out that James was right. She should act differently if she planned to take the Crown Prince's attention to herself. James pointed out that she should at least make her hair look prettier than Lady Lanthera's. She'll become Empress and look down on her brother. She doesn't understand why he even wanted to become a duke if he ends up at Lanter's level. But when she becomes Empress, she will give birth to His Majesty's child, and he will inherit the throne. Then everyone will have to recognize her. With one command, she could get rid of the Emperor and shake up the empire. Her father, mother, and brother would tremble in her presence. That's what would have happened if she weren't there. Without her, the Marquise is the most beautiful of girls, and yet she's no match for the prince. So what should she do? Perhaps she should splash hot tea on her face, or humiliate her by tripping her up so she falls at the prince's feet. She didn't know at all what to do. Suddenly it started to hurt. She noticed that the maid had been working for them for so long, but still hadn't learned how to comb her hair neatly. The maid remarked that she had shown her that it was better to pluck out the gray hair. The princess said that if they said anything like that to me again in her presence, they wouldn't get away with just a clump of hair being torn out. The servants immediately apologized and promised it wouldn't happen again. It keeps happening, so he suggested his sister cut their pay for a while. Everyone already thinks she's a wildcat. Charlotte noticed that they were only pretending to care about her, while in reality, they were saying bad things about the Duchess. At the same time, she is upset when she sees only him, and in the classroom, both he and the Grand Duke stand at a crossroads. The Crown Prince laughed and remarked that this was a bit too much, so she should go easier. And then she asked Charlotte what she thought. The girl remarked that if this was an act of love, then he should stop. And even though he was her brother, he wouldn't escape a beating. As far as she knows, Lady Lanthera went to Hodelin on business, but he wonders which of them she likes better. The princess thought for a moment and asked her brother if he was stupid. She was pleased because she wanted to play with the Duchess and asked him to tell her how to find out what a boy likes if she couldn't meet him. They are similar in appearance, and she is quite confident in herself. But if their tastes differ, then everything is useless, and he relies trying to make it so. Charlotte screamed that she wanted to play now, and immediately, the Duke burst into his daughter's room and shouted that an invitation had arrived from the palace for her alone. They have accepted her as a friend of their family, so she should get up quickly and get ready. This beautiful handwriting belongs to Charlotte. She wants to meet and chat with Larissa, and what follows was probably written by Crown Prince Caden, and he's sure he wants to see her just as much as Charlotte does. After his coming-of-age ceremony, no one could meet him, and now he himself was inviting her. The Duke was simply delighted. The meeting is scheduled for tomorrow, and it's simply amazing. Her running around wasn't in vain, so she should try to hook him. The Duke remarked that his daughter had done a wonderful job and looked even more charming today. But Larissa was coughing. He asked her to wear a wig. It would be good to wear it not only in front of others, but also just like that blonde suits her better. And she must also remember that he is counting on her. The maid remarked that the Duke was very rude, and she should have said that she was unwell. But Larissa said to let him go. It was better to ignore him. On the contrary, it was good that he didn't start to worry. Ellie noticed that Milady had a fever, and she couldn't understand how she could travel in such a state. The lady believed that a good night's sleep would cure everything, and she wasn't going to a night ball. Larissa was grateful to her for not losing her spirit, but she asked her to bring the pills instead of reproaching her. She said she would bring it and left. The Duke had no idea why she was forcing herself to do so. It's not she who needs this, but fear of the consequences for deviating from the intended plan. She dreamed of escaping the cage, but freedom remained elusive. The parents wished Larissa a good workday, and also asked her to return soon, and were very grateful to hers. She had to give them up born, to sacrifice the game for responsibility, a bird trapped in captivity. She sings songs of freedom to her cage. Even if no one opens the bars, she won't be able to escape on her own. He decided that she wouldn't go. He tugged at her dress, but the lady said that they would play when she returned. The Duke was already thinking he'd have to use force to stop her from going, and she stayed home. She had to stop while he was still kind. The maid asked Milady how she was feeling. Larissa was feeling better. The pills were helping, and Ellie was glad to hear it. Well, the rabbit noticed she was a liar, because she'd been coughing all night. The lady said she didn't want to be distracted during her meeting with the princes and princess that day, so she'd leave the rabbit to hurry. The maid was absolutely delighted. "He's a good rabbit, there won't be any problems," the maid said she could be relied on. The rabbit realized he couldn't kick her and wondered if there was another way out. So he decided to lie down on the floor and look very sad. She must choose her sweet bunny or the unwanted Crown Prince Caden. But he was too late. Ellie wished the lady a good trip and rode, and also asked her to return quickly before the rabbit kicked hers. "I need to tell her something before she leaves Lanhangguo. Is the Duke's favorite traditional Chinese medicine for lung ailments. After taking it, it increases energy for 3 to 4 hours, regardless of the initial state. After the effect wears off, a huge surge of fatigue will appear." The lady realized that she needed to eat it. She knew that it was unreasonable and even too much, but she doesn't want to miss out on the opportunity, and she has no desire to take the pill either. She could ask to reschedule the meeting, but they would take that as a refusal. Even if things get tough, it's better to be fully prepared. And she decided that she wouldn't get a better chance to cope. She realized that she had forced herself to go, because she was happy spending time with loonies. Well, even so, she still doesn't want to go. However, she also doesn't want to expose others to danger because of her decision. When the princess heard that he liked strawberry shortcakes, she remarked that she liked them too. She asked for strawberry shortcakes to be brought right away, and for them to find the best pastry shop in the empire that made them. The prince remarked that it was true that the Grand Duke had quite a sweet tooth, though you wouldn't know it from looking at him, so he was guilty before her for suspecting her. That's why he asked for direct communication. The lady remarked that she would think about it. He also asked what she would receive in return. This surprised the prince, and he asked again. Larissa noted that he understood correctly. In any case, there was no point in revealing the truth. Today, the prince also laughed and said that he agreed, and asked what the lady wanted. After these words, the lady asked him to guess for himself, and asked him what he thought she needed. The gentleman asked about the time frame, and she hoped that it wouldn't take much time. Charlotte told the Duchess that she had been told that the strawberry shortcakes in the rose garden were the best, so she invited her to go there together. She could tell me when she could go, and she would buy the entire confectionery shop. The prince was shocked. He couldn't understand how Charlotte could say such a thing. The girl said she meant it from the bottom of her heart. Her brother really is stupid, stupid beyond any doubt. It even goes beyond the bounds of ordinary stupidity. Her brother and the Duchess will be able to be together, and she will be with the Grand Duke, whom she will invite. The prince asked her what she thought, and the lady replied that it was an honor for her. In that case, they would send her a letter soon. Everything was fine. All she had to do was go home. But she realized she shouldn't have been stubborn and needed to take the pill. Larissa decided to take a break when she returned and asked Ellie, but suddenly someone interrupted her. The gentleman asked my lady to forgive him for a moment, but she threw his hand away. Her forehead is flushed and her complexion is that of health, so he wonders how long she has been in this state. Larissa said she just had a slight cold. Now she basically understands why she's so suspiciously pale today. The prince followed her immediately out of curiosity and then offered to call a doctor. That was enough for the trouble. In principle, he understands that she does not want to appear weak, but he still called the servants to him. Larissa told His Highness she didn't want to see a doctor. The Lord assured her there was nothing wrong with that. After all, she had already proven herself very strong, stronger than he could have imagined. So much so that neither he nor her sister noticed she was unwell. Everything was going really well. She thanked him and said that she would rest on the way. Even if she fell right now, it wouldn't matter. The prince wondered for a moment why they were still talking. It was as if she was trying to stop him from sending her home, so he said he understood, and she thanked him. Finally, the prince remarked that he wished with all his heart to know what she really wanted. He's curious, but he told the lady the answer is simple, and he'll soon figure it out himself. Well, if he were that simple, he could extend his hand, and any young lady would take it to take advantage of the opportunity to stay in the palace for a couple of days. And then she asked him what she thought, if she wanted to get closer to him. Well, the girl told him to find the answer himself, because it was very simple. His Highness should think carefully about this. The principal, nevertheless, asked her to pause for a moment. Well, suddenly, a rabbit jumped out of the bushes and blocked his path. "This is Hodelin's black rabbit." Princip asked what he was doing here. My lady didn't take him with her. He was a fool. He decided to take advantage of someone else's illness. They were on good terms, so he thought the prince was a good guy. It was already late, so he had to go. He offered to take the rabbit to the princess, but the rabbit hit him with its paw. Caden was shocked that rabbits could hit so hard. After that, the rabbit showed him something and quickly ran away. He basically thought the rabbit had warned him about something. The Duchess asked the rabbit what had happened, since he had hidden in the carriage and gone with her. She apologized. He was probably hungry, so she asked him to go with her and she would feed him a salad. But the rabbit didn't want that. And when they returned, he wanted to go and rest. On the way, she fell asleep. While he was getting here, the thought wouldn't leave him. He was too superior. It seemed to him that if you get what you want, then the person will feel good, and everything will work out. But she doesn't know what she wants, so he has to find out. Every little thing she never knew she had. Everything she'd ever wanted to do. Everything she'd ever wanted to see. Everything she'd ever wanted to have. He really wants to know her. After that, he turned into a human, and he did not understand at all why the spell fell at such a moment. He feels so warm in her embrace. She never felt anything like this when he was a rabbit. Her breathing is peaceful and slow. And more than that, he realizes he's close to her, the beating of his heart letting him in. For a moment, her temperature began to rise. She wasn't warm, but burning, and his thoughts had distracted him from reality, and he'd forgotten she was ill. When he came to, he began sending her Manu in hopes of alleviating her symptoms. So his magic doesn't heal, but at least it helped take away the fever. Good thing the spell wore off. It would be difficult to help her in a rabbit's body. All that remains now is to wait. If it suddenly starts, it will be a real disaster. Well, in any case, before they arrived, he would turn into a rabbit. But suddenly, the coachman announced that they had arrived. The butler came up and remarked that he thought the door was locked from the inside, so she needed to open it. It's completely unclear what's happening and why he doesn't transform. This time, he lasted much longer. In the Soviet Society of the Empire, men and women could exchange only glances for months. Even doctors don't dare to spread rumors, let alone the fact that they are alone in the same carriage. He didn't know what to do and tried to transform. The butler didn't understand what had happened and said he was worried about Milady, so she should answer him. He apologized, but he'd have to open the door himself. The guy tried to transform because he wanted to be a rabbit. He wanted to turn into one, and he liked them. It's just a curse because he can't do anything. He made his voice as thin as he could and asked to close it. He said he needed to stop somewhere right away. He got away with it. The cousin was shocked with you that even young ladies have a low voice. She probably caught a cold. She must have been tired. She didn't rest at all. She went somewhere. Sen didn't understand at all what kind of nonsense this was. They were having a party in honor of the fact that the spell had worn off, and he wasn't thrilled, and his blood pressure was rising. This was too much, and the gentleman had no idea what he could have done. In any case, the lantern house wasn't the best place to relax. Well, the servant thought that it didn't matter now. The master just wanted to avoid what would be perceived as flirting in the carriage. Sen remarked that he did not understand how he could put her to sleep in his bed. I brought her here so that no one would see that they were in the carriage together. And this is simply nonsense and funny and stupid. The girl didn't understand what they were talking about or what the problem was. She needed to get up, but she felt unwell and couldn't open her eyes. She felt so good lying down. She remembers returning from the palace by carriage. Perhaps she arrived and fell asleep. She was so exhausted that all her memories were hazy, and the seats in the carriage, which are usually very hard this time, felt like soft blocks. That's why Larissa thinks it's okay if she rests a little longer until Ellie wakes her up. She still wants to sleep just a little bit. Luckily, the fever was going down, so there was no need to worry so much anymore. Sen asked the gentleman what he was doing, because it would be better for her to take warm showers since she was sick during the rainy season. But the gentleman noted that she wouldn't be able to rest properly there, because that's where her home is a cage of gold. And also, since the spell is worn off, he can no longer be near her, but he also can't bear to leave her alone. Sen noticed that the master chose the best and took her out of the city and laid her down in his chambers. Since he's so worried about what others will say, the servant doesn't understand why he even did something that could cause even more problems. Even if the coachman doesn't mention she was here, the Duke will notice her absence. And this situation is different from when he invited her personally. The master asked for a pen and quill, and the servant, surprised, handed them to the master. He wrote something on a card and handed it to his servant. The boy was already completely stunned when he read it. The wig was not just an accessory, but a way to replace his dead daughter. Sen doesn't understand at all why the gentleman only told me about this now. But the Duke simply couldn't have done it before. Besides, he is not 100% sure that the information is correct. He only overheard it from her conversation with the maid, but he still hopes that he will try to help her. His master caused so much fuss. I claim that she is only his benefactress, but it turned out that everything is not so simple. If the servant had been in his place, he too would have wanted to help her. These words surprised the Duke, and he asked what it meant. Sen thinks that his master is acting out of his own self-interest and believes that he wants to get closer to her, so he will look forward to having children. But the Duke said it wasn't so, and at that very moment, he turned into a rabbit. The spell didn't work for a very long time, but it turns out they never fully slept. Perhaps he did something wrong. Afterward, he hit his servant because he believed it was his fault. Sen sent the letter. Perhaps he was at fault, but the punishment was harsh, and he couldn't understand how he could treat his best friends like that. And how many times I didn't understand at all why the Duke didn't behave the same way with those less friendly guys who knew nothing about the spell he was under. Although I hit James on the wrist, he'll kill me because he's too nice. In any case, as the gentleman said, they can rest easy for a couple of days, because Ellie's maid will cover for the lady. The content of the letter is simple, and what he needs to prepare is easy to execute. But he doesn't know how the plane will react to the Duke's plan. Larissa woke up and had no idea where she was or why she was there. She noticed the family black letter, and it was probably from Strelitz. She was also very curious about what was in it. In the letter, he told the lady to enjoy her vacation. She didn't quite understand what that meant. The letter from the Grand Duke says she fainted in the carriage. Sen found her when he came out to meet her and brought her here. The lady is glad they wrote to Ellie, but for some reason she doesn't believe it. It doesn't matter how much the doctors tell her to rest. She can stay with them for a few days, explore the estate, and enjoy everything she needs. He's very kind, even though they've never met in person. The flowers smell wonderful. The lady feels light and at ease, perhaps, because she slept well. The situation was strange, and she didn't know if she should relax. Suddenly, she realized she wasn't wearing a wig. They took it off. She decided to put her panic aside because she needed to calm down. A wig might be just an accessory, but it didn't mean she wasn't a true lady. Larissa decided to say she was wearing it because her hair had become unusable due to a long illness. It was fine, but there was another letter. It said the lady needn't worry about her secret. The people living here have no connection to the Empire and have no need to talk about it, so she needn't worry. If she doesn't know what to do now, she can ring the bell and the guide will help her. Afterwards, her rabbit came into her room. She was shocked to discover that he was the escort the Duke had written about. She also noticed that he had such a cute outfit. The rabbit brought clothes for her in wagons. She couldn't understand how he'd managed to learn to do that. At first, he'd wanted to ask the maid, but she was so sweet. No. The rabbit thought that the cute rabbit would be better suited to handle this task. No matter how much she listens to strangers, their words must not weaken her vigilance and grip. This is precisely what carelessness is all about. Larissa was very grateful to the rabbit and praised him for it, petting him at the same time. After that, she decided to choose something. The rabbit wanted her to wear something she liked, not something a duchess should wear. She saw that there were trousers there, and quite a lot of them. She wondered what she should put on. The rabbit wanted to tell her that the choice was hers. She could try on everything and then decide. She started to change her clothes, and the rabbit immediately closed his eyes and thought that she should have warned him. When she got dressed, she immediately asked the rabbit how he liked the outfit. The Duke started hopping around. Larissa feels strange. She has never worn trousers before, but they are as good as she imagined in her youth. Even if you don't concentrate on walking, you don't have to worry, because you won't step on your hem, and it's easier now that you don't have to wear a lot of petticoats. The lady suggested that the rabbit leave the room already. She followed the moon everywhere. Everything here is so incredible, like a dream. She has no idea where she is. Some kind of crossroads, the sounds of an instrument are coming from somewhere, and from the other side, a fragrant scent. Lung looks as if he's waiting for her to choose. Larissa was a little hungry, just a little. This hunger was unlike anything she'd ever experienced. Fasting is common among women who watch their figures. There are more important things than food. The melody interests her much more, and when she went, she immediately saw that there was a whole concert going on in the greenhouse. Suddenly, someone greeted her and asked if she wanted some cupcakes. It was Sir San. For some reason, he was wearing a dress. The Duke himself didn't understand what it was. The lady noticed that she and her brother were often confused. Larissa believed they were twins, but the girl said that she was 3 years older than him and was also glad to meet the lady. Her name is Cindiara. You can just call her Cindy. And then she asked what the lady's name was. She remembered the Duke's words that the people who lived here had no connection with the Empire, so she said that her name was Larissa. That's right. She's not a lady now. She's just real. And I'm very glad to meet her. Cindy remarked that she had a very beautiful name, and also asked the lady if she liked the melody. Now she sounds different with everyone. She's never heard a song like this before. Aristocrats honor culture and rank. In an empire where only heavy immediate tunes are performed, it's rare to hear a joyful song. Cindy asked the mistress if she wanted to join in. A little accompaniment would make it sound even better. Well, the lady doesn't know how to play an instrument. Although I had to learn to play the piano, as the customs of aristocrats required, she remembered only standard songs, because of which everyone thinks that she has an innate talent for music. But in truth, her performance was more like watching the honed movements of a mechanical doll. Larissa doesn't know what it's like to play like they do putting their soul into the music. Cindy assumed that, in that case, the mistress certainly knew how to knock. And then she provided her with a small instrument. Or rather, there were several, and the mistress could choose whichever suited her taste. Even the rabbit was given an instrument, and he pressed it with his paw. Their accompaniment didn't really fit the melody. It cluttered it up and sounded childish. On the other hand, no one said the performance had to be perfect. And so the time passed with Cindy singing and eating sweet desserts. The lady had a lot of fun today, Cindy too, and they will be able to see each other next time. After that, Cindy's brother came up to her and asked her what she would say. As he said, the lady doesn't know how to play, although she has completely forgotten about it. She wondered who she was. Her face was beautiful, but her eyes were sad, and Cindy thought she was an aristocrat. Sen noted that this was the case. Whatever the case, I'm sure what the Grand Duke has prepared will be of great help to her. She needs to unwind. And didn't the Duke know that she loved entertainment? Sen noted that of course he knew Cindy didn't understand why he'd returned from the palace, and assumed he'd been unable to negotiate the deal with the Mana Stone. Well, it's not that simple. Matters of state are involved. They'll need a lot of Mana Stones to protect the duchy, more than they can afford. Sen is certain that for the wealthy kingdom of Lancel, this bush doesn't seem to be desperately trying to get what they desperately need. They had messed up again. The men apologized and assured the gentleman that it was quite difficult. Caden knows, but he needs to buy himself some time. The men said they'll do their best, but they can't keep trying forever. They need to get Mana Stones as soon as possible, and there aren't enough of them right now. It began to rain. His Highness noted that he could see it, although the end of the story was already near. Events were still just looping one after another, but it was time to put an end to this, and Kaiden decided that he would personally go to the Sterlets. It's simply unbelievable. The weather forecast didn't say there would be a downpour. The maids are wondering if all is well with my lady. In any case, it's better than what would have happened here. The Duke was lying drunk on the floor. Ellie wrote to Sir San that she had mixed the alcohol specified in the letter from the Grand Duke, and that every harvest day she heard that he drank something similar at Eugene Harbour's. It was better than the sleeping pills, but it couldn't last forever. So she asks that Milady return quickly. She has no other recourse but to control the situation. But she suddenly said that she didn't want to look at the Duke, so she simply begged for her mistress to return. She doesn't want to look after him 24/7. Meanwhile, the weather in Larissa was simply wonderful. Cindy thought she was tired, but the lady said she could continue. She asked her not to overdo it, but Larissa assured her that everything was fine, and she wanted to learn as soon as possible before she returned home. Cindy had heard that the lady had been interested in fencing as a child. She asked if it would be scary if she learned martial arts instead of fencing. Larissa remarked that she thought it would be simply wonderful, or perhaps on her first weekend in a long time, she wants to play more instruments. She has already tried it, but would like to know more about the instrument itself. It is much more tempting than dancing at a ball. Larissa is very interested in learning the art of self-defense, because she won't give up so easily. Cindy remarked that she didn't really know how to play, but she could make herself do it, and she promised to tell the lady that she could practice on her own. She was very grateful to Cindy. The Duke Rabbit was also overjoyed, because she was doing what she liked. Only 5 days had passed, but they were the most wonderful days of Larissa's life. She's not sure if she's ever been so free to choose what she eats or wears. Sen asked the lady to let him know what she wanted to eat today, and they would prepare everything in the best possible way. Naturally, they can prepare it however they wish. The lady remarked that it sounded wonderful, and that's what she would choose. Larissa has been eating and wearing clothes the real Genoa would have liked all this time. It's only natural for someone who's a perfect fake. And even before that, she had to share food with her family, so she never chose dishes on her own. And she never even thought about it. The rabbit wanted to tell her to order whatever she wanted. Whatever she chose, it would be delivered. Sen understood her, and within minutes, the entire table was full. Everything was delicious. Even the dishes she'd eaten at the Gertsov family were prepared much better here. Moreover, everything here is done to allow you to enjoy food in a pleasant stop, and there is not a single servant. Mr. Sen left her a bell for her to ring when she needed something, and she would ring the bell only to order dessert. Champagne and strawberry shortcake are a wonderful combination. And then she asked the rabbit if he thought so too. He really doesn't know how much longer he can eat this grass, but to keep her from worrying, he'll eat it all down to the last piece. She thought the rabbit wanted to try it. The servant said that His Highness the Grand Duke liked this dessert. One bite is enough to understand why His Highness loves it so much. But whipped cream is bad for the rabbit, so she will only give strawberries. She's so sweet, the rabbit happily ate it, she's so sweet. She thought she'd gotten rid of all the cream, but there was some left, so she asked the rabbit not to eat it. Then she took it back from him and told him he was a good boy. She can't even imagine, but her touch now made him flush. It's such a blessing that Larissa doesn't know what he's thinking. The girl remarked that it was very cute that this rabbit was hugging her hand, and remarked that he was the cutest rabbit in the world. After this, the rabbit ran away because he was at his limit. He couldn't hold back any longer. Well, because of this body, the closer he gets to her, the more they will find themselves moving away from each other. The thought gives him the creeps. The Duke is certain that without realizing it, he's already figured out how the spell works. That's why he keeps transforming involuntarily. The last transformation was quite long. Her kiss simply restores the magical power. The key to breaking the spell is himself. Larissa couldn't understand why the door wouldn't open, because it wasn't locked. Perhaps something was blocking it from the other side. The Duke needed to think about it. The more complex the problem, the simpler the solutions are. You have to start over like when he learned to fence. For the first time, he decided to think about what he was thinking about. For the first time, he wanted to become her strength. Suddenly, the door opened, and Larissa realized that she had probably drunk too much. Apparently, she overdid it with the champagne. She imagined a huge rabbit behind the door. She laughed and remarked that she apparently really liked her rabbit loon sire. The stranger killed one of the crows, because their appearance and cries were so disgusting to him. The gentleman turned to His Highness the Crown Prince and remarked that this was unreasonable and that he should know that it was impossible to enter the Duke's residence without special permission. Kaiden told him not to kill unnecessarily, because it could come back to haunt them. The guy started getting attacked by crows. The prince remarked that he was a complete fool. This is an unusual forest. It is protected by at least 3 types of magic. And even the Imperial Mage can't deal with this ancient magic. It doesn't rain here. Moreover, for all the empires, the rain has not stopped for 5 days now, as if they had entered another dimension. The gentleman asked that His Highness reconsider and try to contact the Grand Duke again. James noted that he had brought a magical compass with him. Instead, it would be better to deal with the vines that are constantly crawling out from everywhere. It's only a matter of time before they arrive. The prince ordered them to obey Lord Barviti and keep an eye on the soldiers. They must avoid unnecessary injuries. Kaiden was grateful to James for his help. If it weren't for his artifact, they wouldn't have been able to get this far. Marquis Barviti remarked that he shouldn't be thanked, as he'd only saved a little time. The prince had heard of him, but this was the first time he'd seen him. Kaiden heard it had come in handy for James that time, too. The artifact would help pinpoint enemy hiding spots, and it turns out the device points to more than just the south. It is a compass of desires, and by determining the owner's desire, it leads him to the goal. This ancient magical device sometimes acts up, but it's still usable. The prince decided to check if it was all right or not. His Highness's wish is the same as James's. The artifact has detected a desire to enter the residence and is leading them there. But James has one request for His Highness Kaiden. Assumed it was about his younger sister, but it wasn't. This concerns the ball, an annual ball. It is believed that the Crown Prince's partner at such an important event will become the next empress, and the 4 most respected families in the empire received a share of the opening score. The order of exit was determined by the family's closeness to the emperor, Pasli Lucas Barviti, and finally Lanterra. The order remained unchanged. Since the Lanter family received the ducal title following the extermination of traitors during the war, the prince noted that he was speaking immediately. Even after his family received the ducal title, they would not be able to take the place of the Lanter family. Although the current Lanterra had lost her influence, history cannot be so easily changed. James noted that it was impossible to secure the Lanterra family seat right now. Well, how about starting something? And he thinks it would be better if instead of clumsily squabbling over the right to open the social season, both duchies did it together. The prince was surprised and asked again, and he thought this story was interesting. Then he asked if his father would approve of it. James got angry, and Kaiden pointed out that he was a fool, because he already approved, which is why he suggested it to him. Sometimes James thinks he's smarter than His Highness, like right now. He was just lucky to be born Crown Prince. Then she laughed and remarked that it seemed like he had no sense of humor at all, but she didn't understand the reason. James wants to check something out. There's a personal interest involved. It's so interesting, his personal affairs connected to the ball, and the prince thinks he's never heard anything like it before. Perhaps James has found a girl he likes and wants to get her attention this way. Who could this lady be? Perhaps Lucille Lucas. Elena Pasley. There are constant rumors of marriage among the aristocrats, especially after the start of the ball season, but he is rushing things too much. But the principal noted that he says this because he himself does not say anything, and he hopes it's not the young lady Lanterra, because she's not his type. Of course that's not true. He just needs to check something. After that day, he conducted a secret investigation. It was not at the request of the Khitan, and he began the investigation to pay for the shame he suffered in their residence. There was nothing strange about it, and he couldn't believe that the flower of high society had no flaws, but that look directed at her evoked a strange feeling of inadequacy. Before, when he met Genoa Lantera, the eyes on her beautiful face were like a wilted flower. However, now it feels as if he is seeing an unblown bud. The way she behaves with Shamila, her relationship with Hadalin. After recovering from her illness, she acts like a different person. Suddenly, James realized he was overthinking things. Aristocrats are born different from commoners. Nobility and dignity cannot be attained without a good pedigree. No matter how hard a commoner tries, this is unattainable. Nobility is born with the individual. Apparently Lun really likes the lady, even though the Duke knows she's just talking to herself. But he wanted these words to be addressed to him. He tried to calm down somehow. He didn't know when he would become a rabbit again, so he had to hurry and greet her. It seems the lady is truly drunk. She needs to come to her senses, find the rabbit and meet with Mr. Sen. It's time to sneak back home. She's already spent too much time here. For some reason, the door won't open. And when the door opened, she fell head-on against the Duke's chest. She didn't understand what it was. It's too soft to be a door. The Duke asked if the lady was all right. Larissa realized that this man was the Grand Duke of Hadalin. She immediately greeted him. It's all right. This is his residence. She's a guest here. There's no need to panic. She wanted to say she was Larissa, but remembered she was a duchess. Even if she felt awkward, it would be suspicious if she showed any nervousness. She noted that they had recently started exchanging letters, but it felt like they'd known each other for a long time. He knew she'd wear a mask in front of him, too. The Duke noted that their thoughts converged. He also apologized for being so rude. He also asked permission to formally greet her. His exploits formed the basis of the novel The Sword of Hadalun. The Grand Duke described there is a man who is difficult to approach, and it was also said that he does not kiss the hand of even his dance partner. However, his lips touch her hand. This is different from before, and she doesn't feel disgust. It's so unexpected, because it feels so different from him kissing her as a rabbit. It seems he's caught and doesn't quite understand how to raise his head. Now perhaps she won't notice his feelings. Although I'm late, he would like to give her a tour. There's a place he'd like to show her. Larissa said that in that case, they would see each other a little later, because she needed to get ready. He doesn't look like a man who is bedridden. Perhaps the Grand Duke fabricated the illness to avoid the Crown Prince, or perhaps this was a test to see if she was trustworthy. The girl was completely shocked when she learned that there was such a place behind the mansion. It was the sea, and she was simply delighted. The Duke remarked that although it resembled the sea in size, it was a lake. She chose this appearance. It's only natural since this is their first meeting. The lake resembles a sea. Compared to it, the lake in Lanter's garden is just a pond. Even though the sea is fake, it is beautiful. This is not its only peculiarity. The Duke noted that this was the only sea in the middle of the forest, and Larissa confirmed this. The great coat of arms differs from the image in the novel. It is strikingly sensitive and gentle, which can be understood by talking to it. They say that pets resemble their owners, and Lung really does resemble His Highness, not only in character, but also in appearance. He has the same jet black hair and pure amber eyes, just as she becomes a duchess by donning a wig, so Lung seems to don a mask and become a Grand Duke. Well, this is no time to giggle and relax. The Duke heard she was returning home today. The lady confirmed this and noted that, thanks to His Highness, she had had a pleasant, albeit unexpected vacation, and he hoped that she had not been frightened by the wait for me rules, which differed from the imperial foundations. He said she could come here again since she was open to him. Now she understood the reason for this friendly tea party. Since His Highness the Grand Duke had recovered her duty to care for the rabbit, had also come to an end. The lady was grateful for the concern. After the tea party ended, she wasn't sure if they would be able to meet the rabbit again. The Duke couldn't control himself. He could turn back into a rabbit at any moment, so there was no time to waste. They had to separate. The Duke had to let her go, and Larissa knew she had to let go of the moon. She wants to be together a little longer, but they have to part, and it's time to wake up. This time was just a dream. The pleasant, sweet dream finally came to an end. He was no longer a child, and it was time to say goodbye. The lady turned to the Duke and remarked how lucky she was to have guessed Luna's true name. She had never had a pet, but she cared for him as best she could, and was very grateful to him for entrusting him to her. Lun is smart and obedient, with a bold but a charmer. Well, she didn't mention the but, of course. He is insightful and extraordinary, but obedient only when next to his mistress. Larissa felt so pleased, as if she was being praised. She took care of the rabbit with all her heart. But his master is the Grand Duke, and she's too greedy. Hadalun, under my full name, says he really likes her. That's why he performed next to her, even after returning to the residence. Come to think of it, things were different at Lanter's estate. But here, Lung would wander off somewhere during the day, and he would always return to her at night. And he slept with her instead of going to the Grand Duke. She thinks the rabbit really liked her. The gentleman noted that his illness could return at any moment, so he wants to ask her to look after the moon if something goes wrong. Larissa noted that he could of course leave everything to her. Even though she didn't like rabbits, she loved the moon. The Duke was shocked that it was true and tried to endure it. Sen had no idea what these two were doing. He had no idea what he could possibly talk about with such faces. He was simply supposed to serve tea, but his words left him rooted to the ground. He decided to simply make himself known, but suddenly someone approached him. Sen asked if he was sure those two were coming. He confirmed with the help of the ravens that it was definitely Crown Prince Caden and James Barvidi. They know that there is a magical barrier here, so the guy doesn't quite understand why they came here. Perhaps it was because of the trade in magic stones, so he approached His Highness and informed him about it. They should have gotten lost because of the magical barrier in the forest, but they still found their way. If the magical barrier's spell became even slightly stronger, they could be trapped there forever. The servant remarked that it seemed His Highness needed to intervene. Larissa became engrossed in conversation and lost track of time, so she ordered the coachman to be summoned. She was grateful and remarked that tea with His Highness had been extremely pleasant. And then she asked if she could write to him, because she would like to continue exchanging letters with him. The Duke said that he agreed, and that she need not worry, because he would let her know how the rabbit was doing. Cindy said that in the Grand Duchy, friends shake hands regardless of genders, and she hopes that they can become good friends. Of course they can. Saint Raphael. He was without exaggeration His Highness's right-hand man. To unlock the secret of the spell, he pored over the ancient history books of the Strelitz family. When the time comes for true love, he will turn into an animal and regain his form through the power of love. This is not a curse. In the distant past, a fairy fulfilled the wish of the first head of the clan, who wanted to create an ideal family. Randall Strelitz became a black swan, met the love of his life, and thus made his dream come true. Sherry Strelitz, the second chapter, became a deer. Hans, the third chapter, became a giraffe. Since then, I've only written about animals. Love is a high-level magic that only happens when hearts find each other. What does this mean? The Grand Duke has already broken the spell several times, but it always happens again. Larissa's kiss restores the magic, but it's not enough to break the curse. The lady would like to continue exchanging letters with him. He agreed. He needed to think carefully. If His Highness wanted to help Larissa, then he must have been right after all. After some thought, the servant understood. It was a matter of the heart. His Highness, he bet his appearance changed, depending on what was going on in his heart. She didn't believe him that if he gave up his feelings for Larissa, then he would remain a rabbit. It can't be. It's some kind of fall in love or die situation, and he hopes his guess is correct. Sen noted that he would immediately inform His Highness about this as soon as Larissa left, and as a reward, he would ask for Tropyrus E first-class magic stones. Larissa said that she hoped that she and he could become good friends, and offered him her hand. He also wanted to become her faithful friend. At that very moment, he turned into a rabbit and began to squeak. The lady was in complete shock, and did not understand why the rabbit was there. The servant was in complete shock, and said that, in fact, His Highness was a wizard. Well, Larissa demanded that he explain everything from beginning to end. Sen couldn't understand how this had happened. She was shocked, and now she knew what it was. She was so confused that she climbed into the carriage without making any decisions. The lady said that upon returning home, she would send him a letter and hoped that he would not contact her first. She simply left. The rabbit was very upset. The letter in this case is a formality. This meant that he should no longer contact her. This simply broke the Duke. Larissa was sure I should have been angry, but she was really upset. It's okay, it's over anyway, and she also got angry. Because everything she liked and believed in turned out to be a fake. The Duke's fake daughter and the fake rabbit. It was such irony, she seemed in a difficult situation, and she had no right to feel betrayed. He's a nice man, so she's sure they can keep each other's secrets. But it was dangerous, she hates throwing away memories. He won't hear it, but she liked him. Her cute bunny doesn't really exist in this world, and she wasn't sure she could forget that sweet face. Suddenly, the mistress ordered the coachman to turn around because she had to go back, as she had forgotten something. The prince asked James how far the ideas were, and asked if he was sure they were going in the right direction. James said that everything was correct, and they needed to go a little further. But suddenly the target moves, and James had no idea what it meant or what was happening. Considering they had to fight their way through the bushes, they couldn't have arrived that quickly, unless they were runnings. The lady asked the coachman if they had arrived, and it was assumed that they had left the forest. You want to ask for forgiveness, and you yourself did not know why this happened, because he was definitely turning the carriage in the opposite direction. The rain is too heavy, the coachman is completely wet, and the horses are tired. So be it, everything is fine. Then they need to go to the Duke's estate. He didn't understand at all why they weren't going. They were in front of the Duchess now, and it was such a coincidence, but he didn't mind. The crown prince stood before the lady. Kaiden noted that Larissa looked well, and next to him was the young Mr. Barviti. Larissa didn't understand at all why they were here now. When they greeted each other, the prince remarked that they both looked so funny. She thought she had gone to see the Grand Duke. The lady knew that they were close, but she didn't know that they were close enough to go to him, even in such weather. It seemed His Highness wasn't doing well in his affairs, so she wanted to help them in this way. She thought it was her duty, but she had to be careful not to overdo it. If she doesn't mind, they'll go with her. Two young men quickly climbed into the carriage. They'd just been driven out of Strelitz territory. It is worth acknowledging Hadelin's stubbornness, which prevented her friend from even once seeing his house. The lady doubts that the rabbit she was caring for was actually sick, and she sent him to the Grand Duke for treatment. Larissa already wants to see him again. Kaiden noticed that she looked devastated, and he'd heard that one of the hunting dogs at the Imperial Palace had given birth to a docile, smooth-coated puppy. But the lady said that everything was fine, and it wasn't worth it for her. Although there were many cute animals in the world, no one could replace him. James turned away in displeasure, because this woman talks a lot. If only he knew that the compass was pointing me in the direction of the residence. And he wanted to believe me that he could break down the rest of the conversation before they arrived was a blur, but it didn't matter, because they soon parted ways. The rain stopped when 3 or 4 villages located in the lowlands were flooded. James didn't understand at all why you were so worried about her. He acted as if he wanted to hear more from the Duchess. Kaiden asked James if he remembered Erica, but James didn't quite understand what he was talking about. The cute spotted foal he raised as a puppy was loved by everyone. James realized he was saying hello, that she had broken her leg and died. Then Kaiden was very sad. So the worried mother brought him exactly the same horse, and then asked James if he knew how he felt. James thought he was happy. Kaiden pointed out that this was why he was making fun of him. James, his friend. His head was thick. His heart was empty. James thought it would have been better if he had listened to what the Duchess was saying than to listen to this whining. Genoa Lantera, the perfect aristocrat, the flower of high society. But this woman's gaze is directed elsewhere. Talking to her made him remember things he'd forgotten. He became the crown prince, but he was the only one who felt it. James remarked that the Duchess was a flower in bloom, and His Highness confused his concern for her with the realization that the Duchess had changed during her long absence due to illness. James sensed this too. The matter of the magic stones took an unexpected turn because the Grand Duke is a special kind of person, but during the investigation, they did not find anything special. From the very beginning, the Duchesses have been nothing but a flower, since they don't know when it will rain again. More attention should be paid to matters concerning the magic stones and the annual ball. Charlotte didn't understand how much longer she could chatter. But the prince said there was no time to worry about anything else. If the import of magic stones wasn't increased 50-fold now, within a year, the empire would turn into a vast lake and disappear. And all this was because of the nymph's curse. The inhabitants of the empire were unaware of this. This secret was revealed only to the heir, who would take on the responsibility for the country. So Kaiden learned this on the day he was awarded the title of Crown Prince. That day, he cried, tears flowing down his face. He felt sorry for the heroes of this story. Long ago, in a dense forest, lived a lake nymph. One day, she met Randall Strelitz. For his pure soul, she helped him find happiness in love, thus fulfilling his wish. However, left alone, the nymph became curious. She wondered what love was. And then the emperor of the Empire Lancel appeared. He said that he loved her, and if she chose him, she would be able to understand the happiness of love. Well, at that time, chaos reigned in the empire. Not a single flower could bloom on the land, which was crumbling from drought. The nymph took pity on the emperor, and therefore helped his land. But far from its native lake, it could not recover, and therefore slowly dried up. Upon learning of this, the emperor wept, but did not return her to her homeland. After the nymph's death, the empire retained its wealth and fertility. But from that day on, endless rains began to fall, and the magicians interpreted this as a curse cast by a nymph. They found the culprit and sealed him. It was probably the spirit of a nymph. To repair a broken seal, many magical stones would be needed. Then this poor girl's soul will be locked away again, and so Kaiden must do so as the crown prince of the empire. It's his duty. It is Larissa's responsibility. Even if it was just a mistake, she must apologize for her behavior. For several days after her return, she was too busy with business. Fortunately, the drunken duke did not even remember her in her absence. As soon as he heard that Barviti would be the first to open the ball, he began spreading rumors about a conspiracy. He said that they were out of their minds there. You never know what will happen at the ball. He yelled at his daughter and said that she had to be perfect. The maid and mistress used earplugs. They worked wonderfully, and now the mistress will know what to use. The maid remarked that she'd remember all the suffering she'd had to endure because of him. Now that she has prepared the dress, she has enough time to write a letter to the Grand Duke. At the time she was confused and beside herself, but now she understands that she should thank him for his help and apologize. She even felt embarrassed and realized she had a lot to apologize for. Then she handed the letter to the maid and asked her to send it. The Grand Duke hasn't slept for several days. Sen is glad to see that he hasn't fallen apart and is doing his job. But since he doesn't return to human form, it's clear he's putting thoughts of Larissa aside. The servant doesn't know how long he can hold out. The Duke asked him if he had found out Lady Larissa's mother had fallen ill with an incurable disease, so her father had to spend all day caring for her. The two younger children attend school with money sent by the Duke of Lanter. Even though the Duke was deeply in debt from gambling, he had to give them at least a few pittances. For a commoner, that's a lot of money, so it's understandable why they didn't move to a better house. The Duke ordered him to find out more, and also noted that a letter from Lady Larissa had arrived. The rabbit immediately became delighted and began to squeak. When he read, he was delighted. But after that, he even turned into a human and asked the servant to prepare a mask. Sen turned to the Grand Duke and asked if he now understood how to handle this magic. He received the reward the gentleman noted, that thanks to the information he found, he now knows the key to magic. Even if the curse cannot be completely cured, it can be corrected to some extent when the desire to help her blossoms in the heart. He becomes a human when he says something to deceive his own feelings. He becomes a rabbit. It's simple, so they can go, "It was a masquerade." The servant wanted his master to go and win the heart of Lady Larissa. Otherwise, he'll have to eat nothing but salad for the rest of his life. He also prefers to work for a human boss. It's finally here, that time when rumors of aristocratic weddings circulate. As soon as the first ball opens, the aristocrat's gaze sends everyone scouring the room. And to avoid their prying eyes, it's best to stay in the crowd. Larissa wrote that they should meet at a masquerade ball hosted by the Barviti family. There's not a member of the Lanter family who wouldn't want to enter the Barviti house through the main entrance, even if it means hiding their identity. Lots of blondes as expected. However, her look was the Grand Duke's suggestion. Without a wig, she wouldn't attract too much attention, and the Grand Duke would easily recognize her. Appearance. The lady is securely hidden behind it. The Grand Duke will truly find her. The real her! His Highness Crown Prince Kaiden has arrived. False Lanter ladies are everywhere. So many young ladies are imitating the Duchess on the Barviti maid floor who hate Lanter. But where was the real one? Because he'd like to chat with her. Afterwards, the head of the family approached him and greeted him, hoping he'd enjoy their modest evening. His daughter was looking forward to today. The gentleman remarked that she was beautiful, and her dark green hair literally shone. Then he said they would meet again and began to leave. There was a rumor recently that His Highness is dating the Duchess of Lanter. And is it official? If it's official, then it's not entirely clear why everyone around is wearing blonde wigs. The ladies are simply hoping that His Highness will make a mistake and talk to them. Well, no matter how good the flower may be, her father's shortcomings prevent her from becoming mistress of the country. Lady Lantera cannot become one. The future is not in Duchess Barviti's hands. The Marquise heard a compliment from him for the first time, and she was shocked by the fact that in his eyes she was beautiful. The girl hears the whisper of a desire she's forgotten. Love, not power. She can stand here like her. Larissa arrived without a wig, a new feeling. James didn't come over, and asked her where she was going so quickly, and whether she thought she could hide behind that wig. She might fool Caden, but not him. He thought she was a duchess. The girl was shocked that he thought she was wearing a wig. Today, he confirmed that the compass needle was pointing to her. Clearly, it was a cunning trick of the Duke's. James grabbed her wrist for a moment. The Duke approached him and noticed that he was staring. His eyesight had deteriorated during the war, because he can't tell one person from another. No matter how beautiful the house is, she's his partner. Unfortunately, the young gentleman was mistaken. She belonged to him. Larissa felt the Grand Duke's hand, and he asked if she would allow him. After that, they walked away. Kaiden approached James and asked if he had seen the Duchess of Lanter. The boy was nervous because the Crown Prince had approached him, so he decided to ask if he had met his younger sister yet. Kaiden noticed that they met, and the guy asked how long they talked. Of course, this is not the Imperial Palace, but it would be nice if they danced. Larissa was grateful for the help. She thought he had a fever because he was so flushed. The gentleman asked if she remembered that his lies about his feelings triggered the magic. Larissa remarked that she remembered the contents of the letter perfectly well. He said he remembered too and called her by her real name. This wasn't their first meeting after all. The lady thought he was too frank, but that was because rabbits had too short legs for such a dance, so he had to be as honest with her as possible, even if it was not polite. Larissa asked if she should be honest too, if she could give him one example. For example, the lady would like to say that she is really very angry. He had plenty of opportunities to tell the truth. She understands why he did it, but that's just how she feels. You and I are for this, but she is no longer angry, and she is also interested in what His Highness thinks about this. She wonders if he's angry at her actions, but that's not the case at all. It all started out of a happy accident, but at some point he faced a difficult choice. Hug her or wait for her to hug him. Even if it's because of me, he says such things so easily. The Duke asked if she really thought it was easy for him to say that it was harder than it seemed. By accident, the lady stepped on his foot and immediately sat down to apologize because she got confused in her movements. This is the kind of dance she can do even with her eyes closed, and they both got nervous. Both of them, after finishing the music, decided to take a break. The next melody soon followed, but she could no longer hear it or the people in the banquet hall. The only thing she hears are the footsteps of the man walking next to her and his quiet voice. Perhaps even the blinking of his eyes sounds louder. Larissa noted that she had a strange feeling, because for the first time she made so many mistakes. She knew practically nothing about him, but he knew everything about her. How then can she have any dealings with the Duke? She finds that unacceptable. The man before her is the rabbit she picked up in the maze. Even if that were true, she finds it hard to accept. He has no intention of abandoning her affection for loonies. However, the choice remains hers. If she so wishes, she can forget about everything that happened, and he will no longer bother her. He accidentally turned into a rabbit. The mask she dropped after laughing out loud. She'd forgotten she'd been wearing it the whole time, because that wasn't what was important to her. Who lies at every step, a rabbit who doesn't know how to lie. He returned, and the lady remarked that the rabbit's uniform suited him very well. The rabbit became embarrassed, and the lady remarked that she liked him like that. Larissa asked him to go with her today, but the rabbit refused. She said she'd give him the freshest salad, and also wine, after which the rabbit showed her class, and the lady remarked that it was very nice. Even if his curse doesn't lift, it's no big deal. When everyone was drunk at the ball, they left for Duke Lanter's. It's not like that at all. It's not like that at all. Now it's not like that at all. Unlike last night, when they were both nervous from their long separation, a feeling of awkwardness set in as night fell. While their relationship had been spontaneous before, it was now somewhat different. The maid informed the Duchess that the rabbit's bed was ready. In truth, it was intended for dogs, but Ellie thinks the rabbits will like it too. Larissa confirmed this and was grateful because it's the perfect size. Well, she always sleeps together, so I don't quite understand why the lady liked him in the crib. Perhaps in these few days away from her, the rabbit went wild. Ellie began to believe that he had kicked her, but the lady denied it and said that she just wanted the rabbit to have his own place in the room, and then told Ellie that they would see each other tomorrow. The size is right, but it's a bit stiff, so it's not really suitable for the Duke. Larissa said that she would put a handkerchief on top. It was the softest thing she had ever had. And then I asked him how he liked the bed. To be honest, I wanted to tell the Duke that he didn't like it, because it was made for dogs, but it couldn't be helped. When the Duke lay down, he noticed that it wasn't so bad here, and the lady wished him sweet dreams. That night, the lady couldn't sleep, and the rabbit thought that with such a body, it was still not easy for him. And also, all this was not what he expected. Suddenly, the lady approached him and asked if he was asleep. She was surprised that he was actually asleep. She figured that if he wasn't responding, he must be fast asleep. For some reason, the Duke feels it's best not to move now. Well, he can't hear anyway. In fact, she hadn't slept well for several days. He had fallen asleep, so she would stay with him for a while and leave before he woke up. Larissa felt that very feeling of comfort. After all, when Loon was around, she felt calmer. The burden that had been weighing on her heart disappeared, and a feeling of relaxation set in. Gradually, everything faded from her mind. The princess she was destined to become, the prince she was forced to meet, the environment she was forced to endure, the things she has to do have become important to her. Even worries about the future are unimportant. She unconsciously throws off her shackles and mask and lives her day. The Duke thought about how lonely she was, and how suddenly, unconsciously, she hugged him close in her sleep. He tried to wake her, but realized he couldn't. He felt as if he were being chained. The gentleman has no choice but to be patient and wait for the right moment to get out. It would be nice if this could help her. I need to think about it, but it's so warm in her arms. What he saw in the banquet hall was true, and he would bet his life on its veracity. The Duke asked him again if he was sure the rabbit had become human. The Duke hadn't intended to attend the Barvides' crappy party, but as a father, he couldn't leave his daughter unattended. Plus, he'd heard such absurd things. This cheeky rabbit was human. It sounds crazy, but the spies presented to him all say the same thing. It's funny just thinking about it. He showed up around that time, and they started hanging out with the royal family. Black hair and golden eyes. Although his appearance suggests that he is from a high-ranking aristocrat, he's a man whose true identity is unknown to anyone. He didn't even know who to sell this precious information to. Perhaps the red-haired boy would need it, or the black-haired one. It's simply crazy to fall asleep like that. Now that he knows the rules of the curse, it's easy enough to go back to lying. Larissa was sleeping so soundly, and he was caught from the start. It was inevitable. He couldn't help himself. We accidentally touched him and immediately woke up after the rabbit squeaked. She started asking the Duke if he was okay, or if everything was wrong with him, and realized that she had fallen asleep. This happened because the night air was especially cold. Then a maid knocked on the door and said she had brought her mistress breakfast. She believed that the night had most likely passed without incident, and that her rabbit had not harmed her. Larissa noted that Loon is not one of those rabbits who would harm people without a reason. And also tomorrow they will go to Rosalia with the princess His Majesty. The prince is also waiting. The mistress asked the maid to check the dress and gift again. Ellie remarked that this time there would be no problems. And then the rabbit remembered that he still had this problem. He loved her, and he couldn't even lie about it. She seemed to love him too, but her love was different, completely different. The Duke wished it were more than that. On his part, he wants to hug her and immediately release her from this place. But this is coercion. Cadilun doesn't think Larissa will like this, so he has no idea how he can reach her heart. After the Rose Garden, there will be a family evening of parsley, after which everything will move on to the paid ball. So now is a good opportunity to ask for help from His Highness. Ellie was worried that something bad might happen, but in fact she was just thinking about it. She said she was going to leave and took off her wig. And all because Journo Lanter is just a role. At that moment, she thought that something great had to happen for big changes to begin. Even if that day never comes, she had to keep moving forward, and she had unconsciously accepted that, because making the right decisions had always been someone else's responsibility. A sick mother, younger brothers to care for a duke using her Larissa's dreams only hindered her, so she erased them with her own hands. But this morning was warm. His little attention makes her want it more, but she'll keep her desire a secret. Instead, they will continue to create their future. She has a plan, and she asks His Highness to review it. She wants to tell him, "I even have one name." He doesn't need to lie, and his warmth has always been so familiar. The Duke realized that once she was free of this estate, she would eventually open her heart to him, so the Duke of Lanter had to be dealt with. He decided to see what she was planning. He would like to just kill this old man, but he is afraid that Larissa will be against it. Suddenly, the Duke thought this would actually be fun. It had been 2 years since she'd been living under the name Genoa. During that time, she'd learned a lot about the Duke that she'd rather not. All this time, she tried not to name the problems to herself, but at the same time, she understood perfectly well that she could not run away from them forever. The Duke had heard that many people had already seen him transform from a rabbit into a human or vice versa. But if they started talking about it, they would be considered crazy. That was the whole point of the plan. Duke Lanter had gone mad. Larissa assumed that was normal, and she thought it would be enough to prevent the Duke from harming her family. But the Duke will be left without a successor, and this can never be restored. It's like riding on a train with a deep cliff at the end. Larissa thought the rabbit was cute, but the Duke thought it wouldn't hurt to adjust her plan a bit. Duke Lantera may have already believed this absurd truth, as there were many witnesses, but he is not a fool, so he is careful about selling information. So it would be good to gain a little confidence. If that's what he says, then their roles are pretty easy. The information about the rabbit makes the Duke spy on them, and the false rules will mislead him. For example, such a rule as a change in appearance after splashing with water. When the Duke has evidence, he will immediately get going. Since His Highness is with her all day, and the Duke wants power, and the imperial family, she wonders what he thinks about whether her so-called father will go to the crown prince. Tomorrow, she intends to make a mistake in the rose garden, making it so that the water gets into it, but then the prince, and make sure that the Duke's words had no common sense, because the rabbit did not turn into a man. Even thinking about it makes her smile. This is the first and last time she laughs at this man. The majestic Duke probably already knows that the crown prince wants to meet with the Duke to talk about the magic stone. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. He decided to get straight to the point and asked about the Archduke. Lantera knelt down and informed the master that his daughter's rabbit was human, just so he knows he is Archduke Hadelin Strelitz. If you pour water on a rabbit, it will turn into a man. Charlotte started asking her brother what this uncle was saying, because he must know that rabbits can die from bathing. Charlotte told the Duke that as far as she knew, the rabbit did not belong to the Duchess, but to the Archduke, and that Madame Larissa was simply taking care of it. And he dared to desecrate the honor of the Duke, or he laid hands on him, but the Duke took the princess away, saying that this rabbit was an unusual animal. Kaiden had heard that he had been unwell lately, but even taking that into account, his words sounded absurd. Among many meetings, there had never been one like today's, and he laughed. Lantera noted that he too had doubted it, until he saw it with his own eyes. He quickly took the opportunity to send a letter to His Highness. The princess didn't understand why he was so happy, because it wasn't a compliment. The Duke apparently didn't know that people have different facial expressions when they are angry. The way back, all this chaos spread faster than the Duke's steps. Their gazes seemed to be imprinted on his back. The Duke had no idea why he was being shamed. Charlotte asked her brother if this ugly man was her friend's father, and she said he was acting as if gold was worth more than blood. The prince paused. The pillars that held the empire together must have been shattered in just this way. He pushed Barvidi to keep Lanter under control. He must have been worried that things were only getting worse. But he just has to think about it. Has Lantera fulfilled his duties as the empire's sole duke? And what's the difference between Lantera and Barvidi anyway? Rather than preserve a lost mouth, it's better to start a new one, or take control of Barvidi. Besides, now is a very opportune moment. It's perfectly natural for a daughter to be raised as a future empress. The lady wanted to go up the stairs to get the book, but the Duke helped her. She was grateful and remarked that she seemed to be talking too much. But Hedalun said he wanted to listen some more and would be upset if she stopped. As we know, the Archduke's residence is large and sparsely populated, so he can get lonely. In that case, she wouldn't know what her rabbit was thinking. Larissa decided to ask Herzen what kind of person would be suitable for the crown prince. He replied, Larissa, Lucas, though young, is smart and ambitious, while Pasley is simple but calm and says she is more timid than she appears. The lady noted that his calling her by her first name could cause problems, since others should not know about it. But there's no one else here except them. This place must be very popular, because there are so many foreign books here. Suddenly, the gentleman handed her the key, and she realized that it was not just a key and could not believe it. This is not just a key, it is from this bookstore, so he wishes Larissa a happy birthday. He chose what she would like. She was worried that it might be too small, management entrusted to her, as she is a reliable person. Therefore, if she wants to change something, then she just needs to give instructions and put the books that she likes. They are father that are about flowers and embroidery. Suddenly, she remembered that tomorrow was the Duchess's birthday. Just one day apart, she'd been so preoccupied with Gernoa's birthday that she'd forgotten her own. Following the rules of etiquette, it is considered that the gift is unnecessary, so she pretends to be embarrassed, but in fact, she is happy. Larissa said she loved it and that it was the best gift ever. It was such a joy. They stayed there for quite a while it poured. The sound of raindrops hitting the windows resembles the sounds of a musical instrument, and she doesn't even know since when rain lifts her spirits. Larissa really wanted to read this book. The content wasn't suitable for a girl from a musical family, so she couldn't even take it off the shelf. The Duke noted that she said that this book was not suitable for a girl and a noble family, but it was about the art of fencing and horsemanship. Everything is by the Empire's standards. But that's not true. It's completely at odds with His Majesty's standards. Hadalin noted that she was very determined if she wanted to conform even more closely to them. Larissa told him to try to adapt in that case. It's not just a library, it's a bookstore that buys and sells books, so its economic potential will increase naturally. However, the other side of him was surprisingly indecisive, and the next birthday party was just around the corner. The Duke burst into her room and began to congratulate his beautiful daughter on her birthday, Gernoa Lanther's birthday. The castle was resplendent in splendor, in honor of the princess's birthday, but the Duke's treasury was beginning to empty. He needed to focus on the seasonal party, so he used the excuse of the princess's ill health to hold the ball modestly. And the birthday she'll have won't even happen. She barely attended the party instead, fussing over the countless gifts that had been delivered. It's even better that way. We need to get ready for the last ball of the season. The less events that happen, the better. Everything is ready. The maids were delighted to wish the Duchess a happy birthday. It's a small thing, of course, but they've prepared gifts, and they've poured their hearts into them, so she asks you to accept them. The Duke said it was simply astonishing. His daughter's deputation was highly regarded not only by aristocrats, but also by people of low status. The Duke apologized for not throwing a proper party, but he was making good preparations for the next one. And he had prepared for her the gift she had been waiting for so long. Larissa assumed all the gifts must have been prepared by the Duke. Everyone was working hard, of course, so they didn't have to waste time. Even her personal maid Ellie was busy, so she could only see her in the evening. The Duke remarked that she shouldn't be sad. This was her home now, and all the services in it were hers. Larissa thought that the prince would raise a fuss because of the Duke, whom he despised so much, but he had something in mind. She is the crown princess, and everyone is looking forward to her becoming empress. They must not allow their power to be destroyed, otherwise their lives will be buried with it. He knew she was attractive, but he hadn't expected her to be so attractive, and she was able to attract the attention of nobles all by herself. He then asks her to use this side of herself to create a bond between herself and the crown prince. It was disgusting even to hear such a thing, and he had no idea what kind of frivolous plan this was. Garasik decided that this guy was about to pay, but he realized he had to wait. Larissa turned to the Duke and asked if he knew he was talking nonsense. It seems the gentleman was mistaken in his perception of her devotion to her family, and he seriously thinks she's bothered even by a passing auntie. If this were so, then she would not have been able to put on this performance with the imperial family. The Duke must have been tired of imperial concerns and forgot for a moment that if he harmed her, he would be in trouble. The gentleman did not understand at all how she dared to talk to him like that, and also asked if she wanted to see her family. According to the contract, she is not supposed to go to them until the upcoming party, but he lets her go. Whether she goes or not, it will still lead her to a trap. She only receives a letter from them once a month, and they are all practically the same. Sen's report stated that there were no particular problems. So far, Larissa approached His Highness and said she would like him to find new work for the Lanter family servants. Whatever she wants to do, the Duke will be there to help her, so she just has to go with the flow. Larissa noted that he would eventually jump to his death if he continued to change his appearance so suddenly. At least the curtains needed to be closed. He wanted to say something, but he suddenly stopped, and the Duchess decided to ask again what he said. But he said that he didn't say anything. Until the shaking that he expected in response, he had to remain a rabbit. Larissa told His Highness that she would sit down next to him and asked if he was okay, and not cramped. Hadelun said not a bit, and he's quite comfortable. But he says this while in rabbit form. If you think about it, that moment was so awkward, but she likes it. It was very warm in the carriage, and this warmth gave her courage. It turned out that she could move mountains. Once she'd defeated the Duke, she'd be able to return to her family. And Larissa understood that. The beginning went better than expected. Her family greeted her joyfully and said they missed her very much. My sister didn't understand why she was gone for so long. They also started asking what kind of rabbit it was because it was so cute. Now the Duke knew what her nickname was because her younger brother called her Fox. The children were eager to try petting him, but Larissa said he bites, so it's best not to touch him. She felt so warm inside, as if she'd fallen into the sweetest dream. She started asking if everyone was doing well with their studies. The letter said Louis was having trouble with an exam. She said the house had become much livelier than before. He had passed the exam a month ago with flying colors. Their thin faces had disappeared without a trace. The boy told his sister he had received the highest score. When he grew up, he would become an excellent doctor. Larissa felt her heart fill with happiness, as if it were her reward. To do this, he must go through elementary, middle, and high school, so he must work hard. After that, Larissa asked, "What about Yulari?" Her little sister told her that she wanted to be just like her sister. She has become so beautiful, and she is probably the most beautiful girl in the city. After that, silence reigned at the table. When the children left, Larissa decided to ask if they knew about Yulara's dream. She inquired about her life and learned that she had become the adopted daughter of the Duke. He was very happy before he was afraid that she would suffer, because there were a lot of difficulties in their family, and she probably thinks it's a bad influence on her little sister, so he apologized. And Larissa asked if he was serious. It's not about wanting to be beautiful. That simply can't be a dream. She says she wants to be like her, but I don't know what kind of life she lives. Right now, Yulara has no dreams. There's Louis nearby who wants to become a doctor. Larissa asked if they knew it was wrong, and still did nothing. All they do is indulge her, thereby making her happier. Even though Yulari is happy now, they couldn't care less about her future. Ilya has a hammer, and Yulari is older than him. In a few years, it will be time to get married. So Larissa asked if they were going to sell her younger sister as soon as they had the opportunity, just like they had done with her. However, she understands them. They had money problems then, but now they don't. Her father apologized and asked her to stop answering, as it was only a minor rift, but it was like poison, and they intended to fill Yulari's heart with it. She is young now, so I don't know what awaits her, but as they said, she will soon reach the age when it will be time for her to get married. What does she need to do? What should she do to make them happy? They won't regret their actions if she fails. Her parents don't understand anything. Their indifference could send her into a deep sense of emptiness and despair. The thought suddenly crossed her mind. Perhaps the Duchess felt the same way. They apologized to her, but their apology wouldn't change anything, and she brought it up for another reason. Their ever-apologizing girl is now grown up and is the adopted daughter of a duke and the lover of a nobleman, and she has come to tell them that she is going to leave the Duke. But her father began to tell her not to talk nonsense, because if she did, they would not be able to pay for medicine for their mother and support the younger children. But Larissa told them not to worry about it, because she would give them enough money. But her father said that this wouldn't work. The new drug was helping her mother well, but its price was not something she could pay alone. It seemed they had missed taking their medicine, so the father went to the mother and asked her to take it. The rabbit tried to tell her not to overdo it because she always puts her all into situations like this. Gradually, the trembling subsided, and the daughter told her mother to take the medicine quickly. When the mother took the medicine, the cough magically stopped, and for the first time, she saw the medicine working so well on her mother. My father told me to look because the medicine works, and thanks to this medicine, her mother likes it, and a smile appears. His wife is tired today, so he will bring her another one. The rabbit smelled the scent. It's the same as Duke Lantera's. That's why he sensed something was wrong. It smells like the kind of medicine the Duke of Lantera uses. We need to make sure she doesn't take it. After all, this is Larissa's family, so we'll have to keep an eye on them. So the rabbit hit the father and knocked it out of his hands. The man had no idea what kind of ferocious beast it was. Larissa asked her father where he got this medicine. He said it was very expensive. Larissa asked her mother if this was the only thing she took, and she also needed to know since when she had been drinking it. He told his wife to go to bed and talk to Larissa. She explained that it was medication, but it was a stimulant that only temporarily boosted energy. The father said that her mother did not have much time left, and he was sorry he couldn't tell her earlier that the medicine had been changed, and they were planning to move closer to the children's school, which is the mother's hometown. Larissa asked if there really was nothing that could be done about it. In any case, she shouldn't take these medications as they could worsen the condition. But my father believed it was better to spend the rest of his life happily than to live longer in pain. So Larissa asked if my mother thought the same. Father didn't understand what she was trying to achieve with these words. It was in any case better than enduring this terrible pain. Larissa sat with the rabbit and asked him what he thought about telling her mother the truth. Despite her parents' poverty and illness, they always lived in love and harmony. Just because the mother distanced herself from the father doesn't mean she became closer to her. She will be very lonely. The Duke has no answer to this question. Perhaps it would be easier to find the answer to this question by relying on the mother she remembers. If Mom had been who she knew, then even if Dad had tried, he would have figured it out by now. Suddenly, she jumped up and said she needed to see her right now. The Duke was shocked and remarked that he had only thought about it and had not yet written it. Mom said she knew about it and her daughter shouldn't worry too much. Mom asked that, from now on, Larissa listen to herself more often and not listen to her father. She will take painkillers, they are both good. She also asked her daughter for forgiveness. She probably still keeps everything to herself and then cries alone. Larissa said that she was still angry, but she would listen to her if that was what she wanted. She suddenly remembered that on the day she saw her for the first time, it was raining just like now. It was Taman. Taman is a dream that foretells a future pregnancy, and my mother noted that in her dream, she was a beautiful fairy. Well, Larissa cried and was sad. Before this, there was a man in her life whom Fairy loved and was happy with, but he hurt her deeply. That person loved something more and adhered to moral principles or something like that. Such people say they don't love themselves and do all sorts of things, and Mom made a wish for her to be truly loved. Unconsciously, she spread her arms wide and told her to come here. She would love her. I hugged her in the taxi, and then Larissa was born. These words made the girl cry. Even though her mother supported her father, then she feels sorry for him now. She was blinded by her own pain and suffering. That's why she didn't listen to her heart and turned away from her suffering. She told Larissa that if she felt her life in the Duke's house was miserable, she would. Then she must leave immediately, and they will move too. Her life is already coming to an end, so burying her in her homeland will not change anything. She is ready to do anything for the happiness of her daughter, and if she does something stupid again and gets in her way, then Larissa should simply ignore her. After this, Larissa smiled and agreed with her mother. The next day, when she returned to the Duke's mansion, the first thing he did was look at her face, hoping to discern the outcome of the trip. But she didn't say a word, bowed, and went into the room. In the distance, she heard the Duke's joyful voice, asking what she was planning to do since she was a rebel. Arguing with him was a waste of time and energy. So the evening of another ball arrived. The truth about her would be revealed at the last imperial ball, and she asked the rabbit if everything was ready. Her family will be moving soon. To keep the Duke from spying on them, he'll assign Sen to them. No matter what anyone says, He's the best at what he does. And he is really glad the Duke was very afraid that she would fall into depression, but now he feels that she is full of energy. Larissa noted that she felt it too, and now something needs to be clarified. He wonders how she understands his words. Larissa said she hears him, a sweet squeak, but at the same time, she hears another sound in her head, and it's his real voice. Come to think of it, it sounded like someone was whispering in her ear, magic dissipates. Magic can only be dispelled by true love. Sen told His Highness that he had read the old family books more than 5 times, and this was even more than when he took the exam to become a knight. It seems that the key to dispelling magic is not only his heart, but also the heart of Lady Larissa. In other words, with his love alone, he can temporarily change his appearance. But he is, alas, unable to completely dispel the magic, and they must experience the same feeling for each other. The rabbit picked a flower and stood with it in front of the lady. Larissa smiled and remarked that it was very beautiful, and then she asked him if he'd like to pin it to her hair, online. The moments were small bursts. He wants to go back in time and express his love again with joy in his heart. He wants to make this day even more enjoyable. Let the moment with him become more special than any other day. Suddenly, the prince approached her and noticed that she was there, and probably ran away from the hustle and bustle. For people like them, parties seem too obligatory. Larissa confirmed this. She had a slight headache, so she went outside for some fresh air. The prince asked her if she had received her birthday present successfully. He was surprised that she didn't know, and said that it was sent through Lanter's servants with a mark that would not allow her to find out who the gift was from. Larissa doesn't understand at all what we're talking about, because she didn't even look at the gifts. Kaiden noted that the Duchess seemed very busy and hadn't even looked at any of the gifts. Larissa noted that if he had told her earlier, she would have looked for it. But this gift was supposed to be a surprise. Larissa was right. He hadn't been clever enough to deliver the gift and should have done so in front of everyone. He decided to suggest she pretend it hadn't happened and that he'd send her the gift again. And then the gentleman asked if she would share a sweet song with him under the light of the bright moon. But there are no musicians here. A soft hum. And that's enough. It's his talent lulling even the wild imperial cats to sleep. Larissa turned to His Highness and said they needed to move on to the second matter, and that she thought now was an excellent opportunity. The prince wasn't quite sure what she meant. Larissa asked if His Highness really had no more important matters than dancing, and the ball Kaiden noted that this situation would be incomprehensible to anyone. Larissa was referring to the trade in magic stones. This rabbit was the very duke he was looking for. The prince believed that the Duchess was angry because he had insulted her father. The duke's words were true, but in the world, this information must forever remain a lie. These were the words spoken by Hadelun when he transformed into a human. The prince was completely shocked that the rabbit had actually turned into a human, not just a human, but his friend. Larissa thought that he was feeling unwell, but suddenly the prince laughed very loudly. Kadelun learned that this was what would happen. Larissa thought he was going to faint, so they asked again if he was okay. The Duke said that if he fainted, he would wake him up, and she had nothing to worry about. The Crown Prince laughed for a while longer, and then finally calmed down. It's a little sad. He thought the Duke was dying, but it turns out he's hiding such a secret. Right now, this magic is more important. Kaidan seemed to know the story, so he wasn't quite sure why the two of them wouldn't cooperate with him. The Duke noted that heavy rains had started recently, and he thought the legend might be true. Kaiden explained that this wasn't a legend, but a curse that persists to this day. It's a story tied to the Empire full of foolish decisions and regrets. Therefore, this ghost of a nymph, a fairy, or a lion offended in life slowly floods the Empire. For some reason, Larissa suddenly felt nauseous. The Duke asked if she was okay. Larissa said she was fine, unlike her. According to Prince Chungha, they will use the power of the magic stones to destroy the ghost nymph. The court magic proved powerless, so they decided to seal it. Even if they seal it, it turns out that there is no guarantee that these events can be repeated. The Duke understood everything, but it didn't suit him. The prince remarked that this was precisely why he didn't want to talk about it, because it was a state secret. Well, since they took a risk and told him their family secret, he would also like to be honest with them and asks to understand him correctly. If they don't do this, the reign will continue forever. Larissa confirmed this. But even if they manage to achieve harmony now, It's unknown what the next crisis will be. The Duke noted that even if they do this now, later, if they suddenly have to fight in the villain's lair, it will be very difficult to trade mana stones, and he believes they should look for a more radical solution. Caden agreed. But be that as it may, Larissa has a question for him. If initially the Empire was enriched by the power of the fairies, then when the fairy died and became a ghost, Larissa believed that before lifting the curse, the Empire should first be ruined. She believed that if they did this, they would make their job easier. Caden said he was just a little surprised. He never even thought about it. As I expected, talking to her was very engaging. She thinks like everyone else and makes them look at seemingly banal things in a new way. The Duke remarked that it was high time to discuss the main purpose of today's meeting. Here they had signed a preliminary contract for the future trade of magic stones. Over the next year, you need to trade 50 times more, and that will be enough to break even. The prince decided to ask what the price would be. The drug had been tested, and the results were completely satisfactory to the state, so he could accept their gratitude. This is the greatest gift he can give them. Therefore she asks that he give it not to His Majesty, Hadolin, nor to Duke Lanter, but to the maiden before him. Of course, the prince will give this to the one with beautiful eyes, the color of rose quartz. The ball is coming to an end. In this case, the Duke offered his hand to the lady so that she could stand up. But in principle, he asked the Duchess if he could ask her for something. The Crown Prince and the Duchess were linked by fate, and at that very moment, she, of her own free will, took advantage of it and got rid of him. And he doesn't intend to bother the two of them, but he would like to receive a small apology, not in words, but in big memories. The Duke wanted to stop his mistress, but she agreed. It wasn't a bad idea. She liked his approach and could resolve the dispute simply and without unnecessary lies. Well, they're dancing after all. Cadence noted how quickly she agreed, and it made him sad. The prince asked if he had even the slightest chance since he was the crown prince of this country. Besides his personal interests, she was the perfect person to wear the empress's tiara. Some who wear the crown are smart, some are foolish, but they all have one thing in common: a heart that can bear its weight, because they all want it for some reason. However, the Duchess wants something else. The prince did not understand how this could be, since she, the Grand Duchess, was not fit to hold a candle to this side. Larissa said that this is not true, and she just wants to be the owner of a small rabbit. It's too cruel to say that to a man who has feelings for her. The rabbit sees them smiling. The harsher she is, the easier it will be for him to accept. In that case, he asks her not to come here again. After that, they said goodbye. This was a joy for Larissa. Caden didn't understand why he was standing still, and he had a feeling that he was a liar. True, the compass couldn't be wrong, and he had to find out the secret the Duchess was hiding. It was hard to hold back my laughter, knowing that the great Hadolin had such a secret. Now James understood why the compass kept pointing to the Duchess. Caden also found out everything James is sitting in the bushes, but the Duke should not worry about this. He looked at Larissa and the prince and thought they were too close. His only enemy was himself, so he needed to stop thinking she could break his heart. All his calculations, perhaps, except one. He greatly underestimates his attractiveness. His heart, like him, seems small. James didn't understand this feeling. He couldn't decide what irritated him more: the fact that they were dancing, or the fact that it was the ferocious monster Hadolin, or because Kaiden was supposed to dance with his little sister. Suddenly, he realized he was going in the wrong direction. This woman really interested him, and he couldn't believe it. James reached the point. Caden said he felt someone's gaze, so it was him. Kaiden was glad it was just him. He also asked James why he was so sour. The trade contract had been successfully concluded. The prince said he wanted it so much, so he didn't understand why he was so dissatisfied. It seemed he was ill. After that, I offered him some kind of dessert to answer, since he knows that the family traditions are known for being low in calories. James refused and knelt before his master. Now the crown prince held the entire future of the empire in his hands. As the heir of Barvidi, he has no choice but to honor the interests of the family. But the Marquises are only a body from the entire Lancel Empire. If Princess Lanter becomes Grand Duchess, Barvidi will not be able to keep up with Lanter's ranks. A man and a woman should put their heart first, but their status does not allow them to do this. In the past, Hadolin's biological mother was from a fallen aristocrat, so she was close to the commoners, so there were no problems, but she was not a princess. If His Highness doesn't marry his sister, it will be difficult to balance the forces. However, His Highness must have decided deep down that Shamila is unworthy of the Empress's position. Caden asked if there was another way, and James confirmed it with a smile on his face. The second graduation is over, and next comes the Lucas family and the royal family. Soon Larissa will be able to return to her true self. Larissa thinks that's what makes her smile. Ellie's maid told the Duchess to be careful. Especially in this place, she feels like she's already become herself. During the day, the employees work here and manage the store. But from late at night until early morning, the place is entirely hers. Although now the Duke will only be able to sneak up on her when drunk. The Duchess has free time, so the maid will do it for her using a new recipe. Larissa was thinking about how she could somehow get a seat at the cash register. Suddenly she noticed His Highness. She didn't understand at all why he read the same thing without turning the page. This is an encyclopedia of the Empire's demonic beasts, and there are many aspects that differ from the principality. As she expected, His Highness was as serious as ever. I'll have to read it backwards again. It seems the Duke is very worried after the second ball. Well, he said that it is not so, and then he usually does not think about it. He openly shows it, and he thought that he could express himself that way. Love experience is 0%. Larissa thought he was upset because she danced with the Crown Prince. It was hardly possible she didn't expect him to think about it for so long. She asked him if he was very angry, but the rabbit said he wasn't angry at all. So Larissa asked him about some Thorazine tea to cheer him up. Why do they ask about it so casually? Sometimes he's afraid of her, out of calculation. Suddenly, Larissa asked if she could kiss His Highness like before. The rabbit came closer to her and asked if he could do it. He was also very embarrassed. She hoped everything was okay, because His Highness was just a cute bunny right now. A very cute one. Suddenly, he turned into a human, and Larissa said that wasn't right. Well, the Duke said that wasn't what he wanted to do. She wanted a kiss from a cute rabbit. After that, the Duke asked if he could be a cute person. But Larissa thought the cute bunny was better. So he said he'd transform back, though he never actually intended to become a bunny. And only when he became a rabbit did he kiss the lady. This made them both embarrassed. Why did she feel so awkward when it was just the touch of a soft ball of fur? The Duke was very embarrassed. This feeling cannot be described in words. Larissa asked if the Duke was okay. But to be honest, to hide this magical secret, he lived a completely different life. She realized he was talking about the novel about the Archduke. He was the embodiment of love conquering monsters. At the beginning of the novel, he met 10 girls, and each had her own preferences. It was impossible to guess. It may sound awkward, but simply dancing at the ball was enough to show good manners. Larissa wondered how attractive he was, or how smart he was. The Duke couldn't remember, but he was simply a promising man. He assumed Larissa was jealous, because she said he'd done the same thing. Honestly, it seemed like she needed to try harder. It had only been 2 years since she had started playing the role of the Duchess, and given her preparation, even if she went to the ball every day, she still would not be able to dance better than His Highness. In the Empire apart from the Crown Prince, it is rare to meet a handsome and young man. Rabbit decided to ask her if Kaidan was also handsome. Objectively, of course, the Duke was more handsome. He was often busy, and due to a leg injury, he could not often attend social events. This is the place where he got hurt when they first met. Now she hopes that everything is okay. If you look at it that way, everything healed surprisingly quickly. She was very happy, but suddenly fainted. Larissa didn't understand at all what had happened. Suddenly, her head started spinning, and she felt very ill. When I started, I didn't quite understand where she was. Next to her was His Majesty Caden. No, they are similar, but they are different people. Then she does not understand at all who he is. She trained hard, and her skills improved noticeably. She thought it was a dream, but the man said it was just that. Instead of worrying about what you're going through, she'd gotten used to life in the imperial palace. But there is no pleasure, too many rules, and he is always busy, besides her. There are also many friends. The man said the empire would be the most prosperous and happy country of all. And yet she likes that smile. She likes that everyone lives well here. She considers her thoughts and doesn't want to give up, so she'll stay. So she is not disappointed at this moment. He should be with her, her friend. His Highness was informed that a meeting of elders must be held urgently for the last time. That was the last time, since she left this world, he didn't want to do anything. All memories faded with time, and he paid no attention to anything, rain not snow. It no longer had any meaning for him. His Highness fainted again, so the doctor was called again. He didn't know if she would forgive him, so he fainted again. The servants begged His Highness to open his eyes. The rain in the empire is pouring more and more. It must be a curse. And everyone thought that his emperor in Sochi should be worried, because the dead fairy had become a ghost and was now punishing them. His Majesty, the emperor, is not here, but he is the one destined to bury her as an evil devil. They decided to quickly use the magic of imprisonment. I could no longer not see, not hear, because nothing mattered anymore. She endured the sadness that filled her every minute. What did they do? Everything stopped making any sense. One day, after a long time, a small opportunity appeared. She began dreaming again. Afterward, Larissa woke up. The Duke was utterly terrified and asked if she was okay. And then he asked if she recognized him. Larissa said it was a rabbit, and that was correct. The Duke asked her to keep talking whatever she wanted. Her throat was dry, so the rabbit brought her some water. She was grateful and realized she had suddenly passed out. She's probably overtired. No fever, just needs rest. Honestly, she had a strange dream. It was so realistic, and she doesn't know if he'll believe her. The rabbit still can't believe he looks like this, but he sees it every day, so it's okay. Larissa decided that she was telling a story, so he should listen carefully. The rabbit remarked that this was an unusual dream. Larissa doesn't know if it's because of this or not, but lately she's been reading a lot of books. Maybe something got into her head, and she asked if the Duke could take a look once. A sudden fainting fit, and such a dream the Duke understood. But if it was true, then she could be the reincarnation of that fairy. Larissa noted that dealing with this was so disconcerting, because it wasn't even an abandoned princess. A wronged fairy soul, after all, couldn't be the cause of a curse. Magic had placed a curse on the Strelitz family. If Larissa had truly been a fairy, she wouldn't have turned the Duke into a rabbit. He thought so too. But no matter how you look at it, the relationship between the Duke and Larissa is much deeper than they think. Larissa noted that this was true, and that His Majesty the Duke had suffered because of her. But that wasn't what he meant. The lady asked if she could take on the responsibility, and that she would now bring twice as much salad. Well, that doesn't make any sense, so the lady decided to offer him 3 times the salad, because he's such a cutie. When he is a rabbit, she feels like His Majesty is a high-ranking and distant person. From her, he is so cute, and she wants to play with him all the time. Well, perhaps she should be more moderate, so she said it was just a joke. Now the gentleman is completely serious, and will take 10 minutes of her time today. He'll take this from the rabbit form. Larissa asked what it was, and whether it was even possible to do it. The gentleman reached for her lips. The lady remarked that 30 minutes would have been better. They didn't even know how much had already passed. She decided to think that everything would be fine, after all she had promised. It all sounds like a book plot. It was her favorite cake, but time was running out. The lady offered him another one. One more piece is the same as going to do again, so he said that he would probably stop there. It was his first time, and he had plans for tomorrow. Then, instead of another bite, he offers her another sip, but Larissa refuses. He suggested she try other flavors, because he thought they were all good. Some were sweet, some were a little bitter, but the aftertaste was sweet. He can't drink this without her permission. Larissa pointed out that it was the right thing to do, and that he shouldn't sing unless he wanted to be a rabbit for the rest of his life. But you can only drink with her! The Duke remarked that this was absolutely true. Everything was so magnificent, it was hard to believe he was doing something like this for the first time. Larissa noted that this is just the beginning. Then I can do even better, and if he wants to continue, he will find out. After that, they kissed again. It's very funny, of course, but in the fairy tale, the prince woke the princess with a kiss. That's what she thought then. Why does he do it so well? He must have practiced a lot in his sleep. The Duke remarked that he thought it was a one-time occurrence. He was definitely a genius. He's also very skilled with a sword. Larissa remarked that he's very gifted, and that she'll look forward to seeing him do so in the future. This made him open up completely, and Larissa felt very ashamed because she just wanted to joke and didn't know what to do now. She approached His Majesty and said that the investigation she had requested of him was underway. He would meet with Luga today and thought it wouldn't take long. So the lady decided to leave and said that they would see each other in the evening. Now the Duke just has to wait, he needs to train more. He likes Larissa so much. After that, he started imagining her in a wedding dress and immediately became very embarrassed because he was thinking about something strange. He considered himself such a fool, it was too early to think about the future because he had completely forgotten about what was important. Sen was shocked that the kiss happened before the confession. Back then, he was Larissa's family's protector. The Duke is a bad guy. It's best to part with people like him immediately. The Duke showed him his paw. So the servant said that, if of course she was not against it, and the atmosphere was suitable, then everything was fine. The gentleman needs to build up good trust between each other, because no one can know what will happen in the future. The Duke did not know what to do and what to do about the offer. Shamila turned to her brother and noted that he had already given gifts and flowers, which is the most important thing in a relationship. Well, he reads that it will look cheap and decided that maybe it would be better to use a ring. Shimila said that this is the basis of the proposal. When a man makes such surprises, it's wonderful. Speaking of her, she likes it when men sing, and she heard that the crown prince is good at it. They say that he sings when he puts the princess to bed. Also, when a guy gets wet in the rain while waiting for her, it's just adorable. And if he sings a serenade while wet, it will be even better near a crowd of people. But if they refuse once or even 4 times, then you cannot lose your determination.